Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
I have still yet to see that Biggie documentary, but one of these days, too busy watching other craziness. But we'll get into that in a few.
We'll definitely get into that later.
But you can find this here podcast in the meantime at the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast at your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You can also find us here. You know, if you're probably already here, you already found us. But if you're listening later on in audio, you can find us live every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on either the YouTube channel of the Cold Slither, not the Cold Slither, of the Click Nation. That's youtube.com/the Click Nation. That's the KLIQNATION. Or you can find us on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one word.
Make sure to hit like and click subscribe.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. But yes, folks, we are here to talk comics. And folks, we usually have a good show. Let's be honest, but you know, we got some decent stuff this week. No WandaVision this week, so you know we are a mere hours away from the premiere of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right, so get ready for more super long deep dives into Marvel Cinematic Universe television starting next week.
Indeed, hopefully not too long, because I realize these shows have been running rather lengthily in the last few weeks. But you know, hey, you know, they work out one way or the other. So,
right, I don't think we were prepared to do that much on the making of documentary, but it was pretty good.
Actually, I still hadn't watched that, and I totally intended to. Yeah, I still can, but you know, how long was it? Just out of curiosity.
I'm sorry?
How long was it?
Oh, it was only an hour and change, I think.
That sounds about right.
So it was a good-sized documentary, especially for the making of a TV show.
Right. Well, the making of a TV show that was done almost like a movie, so.
Right. I mean, that's the other side of that coin.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah, if folks out there have probably watched it already, then you know, good, great. But yeah, but before we get into any such things like that, let us get into this week's comics. We're going to start off with Champions number 5.
Champions number 5. It's the last issue in the first arc of the book. It's written by Eve Ewing with art by Bob Quinn, color art by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. As I mentioned, it's the last issue of the first arc of the book, which was interrupted by the pandemic. This is one of the books that was more severely impacted by the pandemic in terms of its release. And we actually get a note from, I believe, Alana Smith, the editor of the book, at the end. And it's there because it only provides a cap to the first arc of the book, but then also leads us into the next arc, you know, dealing with the new story direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess we can say this is the last. This is the officially the last issue from Outlawed, I guess, because I don't know if that Power Pack book still has an issue or anything going on, because I didn't get the chance to read that last issue of it.
Well, in terms of technically,
Right. I mean, this is
and this is a mild spoiler because it's so tough to deal with spoilers around Outlawed
right.
because of its release. But I'll ring the spoiler bell here just in case someone really wants to stay spoiler free. In 3, 2, 1. So in this issue, the champions finally come together. Viv Vision has found her North Star, has found her direction, has figured out some things that she should have left to others to figure out. You know, leaving some decisions to be made by others as opposed to making a decision on behalf of others. And that's the crux of it. But the spoiler bell was really intended to cover for the fact that the legislation behind the Outlawed storyline technically is still in effect.
Right.
Its enforcement and how it's enforced, well, we'll see how that goes, and we'll see how that storyline is followed up on. But ultimately, what we have is, I guess, the culmination of this arc, which as I said, deals with the team coming together and Viv Vision coming to the team and bearing herself to them.
Right.
And in a sense, what the team does is figure out a new direction for themselves while also revealing what Roxxon, and come on, it's Roxxon. What else did Roxxon have up their sleeve but bad intentions, right?
I was actually surprised about that part, but we'll get to that in a second.
Right. I mean, that's, essentially the champions are able to stage a breakout and a reveal of Roxxon's intentions to the world, a very public reveal, and there are lots of ramifications that come from that. And at the end of the book, and I'll leave the main parts of the book up for additional discussion. The end of the book has a short follow-up story that consists of 2 pages, written by the new writer of the book, Danny Lore, and the new artist of the book, Luciano Vecchio, with the same art, color, and lettering team of Federico Blee and VC's Clayton Cowles moving forward. But that provides a little bit of a bridge into the follow-up arc,
right,
for the book.
Which, given what we found out in this one, it kind of definitely makes some sense, and also, very, very curious as to where it's going to go. But I was gonna circle back around to mention the fact that you talked about Viv's, Viv realizing that she should have made decisions for others. It also kind of mirrors another choice, a choice that one of the other champions made early on in Outlawed, meaning Kamala, because I don't know if you remember, but when I think they first went into hiding, she pretty much went out on TV. And matter of fact, somebody called out, one of them called it out on that too. Like, she pretty much went out on TV and pretty much made a declaration as Ms. Marvel, and pretty much, made a decision for the team that, nobody else had gotten into before. Slightly different, but it is also that. But they didn't really mention that anything about that part here as much.
No, this is just what I was gonna say in response to that. Is I think that is their version of a team dynamic of teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
That, there's a certain impetuous, a certain lack of formal communication and team structure at this point. We don't necessarily have the history between these characters as we did, say, a new Teen Titans, because that's obviously the comparison that you can bring in here with several legacy heroes involved as the core characters at the
Sure.
beginning, and now we've expanded to a larger roster. I think of how at least at one point they had a somewhat formal meeting structure, but I don't think it lasted all that long, if at all. My memory might be faulty in that regard, but I don't think they've had a lot of this is the social media generation. They probably communicate a lot by text, outside of what we've already seen them communicating by text, which is fairly often. So
Right.
they probably don't have formal meetings
Right.
nearly as much as, in order to like to do public statements and whatnot. So
True. True. True.
they're
Uh,
young. This is part of the team dynamic.
yeah.
So
And I don't know if going forward that's probably whether that's going to solidify, or they're going to just keep kind of doing what they're doing. We'll see what the new creative team comes about. But there was something else that I was actually going to mention outside of the whole Roxxon thing. So which goes back to the beginning of this volume, not this volume, the last volume, where excuse me. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. But regardless, it goes back to the first issue, and I can't remember if it was this volume or the last volume. I want to say it was the last volume because they've been kind of clipping champions, as it were. But this pretty much goes back to something before the start of or at the start of Outlawed, which was interesting because, like I said, I totally had forgotten about that part. So therefore, coming into it to find out that Roxxon had any kind of involvement in it was like, oh right, like,
of course
right,
of course
right,
they're up to no good.
right. Not only that, but it was because it was basically their involvement in what was going on was the reason all of this went, all of this happened, and also obviously calling towards business intervention into government affairs, as it were.
Right, or
But
at least oh no, that definitely, and we also get some uh some side effects of government or at least of businesses uh wag the dog
right,
in this case. That's the you know that's a big part of how the story ends, and a big reason why the two-page story at the end of the book leads in the direction that it does.
mm-hmm. Which, like I said, we will see how that plays out when the new creative team comes on next issue.
Right.
Like I said,
I was good. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that I have I've said this before also, but I've enjoyed Eve Ewing's writing and the creative team on it so far, and um, and I kind of hope to see Eve Ewing doing some more stuff coming down the line, not related to Al Ewing, as we have said before, just to kind of make that clear again. But
Right. She's on. Is she still has Children of the Atom? No,
she has what?
or that's somebody else. Children of the Atom.
That's no, that's Vida Alaya.
Oh,
Ayala.
okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's the short names that drive me nuts.
So,
It's the
yeah.
short names.
I think she does have she might have like a one shot. She's probably has something come down the line. We just don't know it. Obviously, Solicits for July hadn't come out yet, and I don't remember there anything in the next, in the solicits that we have out by now, bearing into that out. But like I said, I'm pretty sure we have not seen the last of Eve Ewing. So, and at least I'm definitely hoping not. But that's pretty much it. The only other thing I was gonna say about this issue was that before we move on, like Riri's mom continues to be a real one, and she kind of mentioned something about a parents of teen superheroes support group, which I can't imagine that not being brought up somewhere at some point. So that would be a curious one to see, or even if mentioned at some point.
It makes sense, one, given the current climate around therapy and support being a lot stronger than it once was. And it's a concept that's already been mined over in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly. I was going to mention that, but yeah. So that's kind of cool. That being said, though, unless you got something else,
I just wanted to make one quick point. It almost felt when I was reading this like it was wrapped up a little bit too quickly and a little bit too cleanly.
Yeah.
But then you have to remember that this is the 5th issue of this arc. And it's been so disjointed because of the pandemic that it definitely felt like I needed to rearrange how everything happened in my brain. Because we got, what was it, 1 issue during the pandemic?
Yeah.
The height of the shutdown, that is, since we are still in the middle of the pandemic. Please don't take what I said to mean that we are done with the pandemic. We are still in it, but at the height of the lockdown, we literally got the release of Champions when things were all shut down. So, and I think they had just started getting books back out to comic book stores when Champions 1 came out. So,
let's see.
Was it right before we went into lockdown?
Yeah, because I know we definitely got issue 1 of Champions and or maybe that outlawed issue or the outlawed number 1
maybe
issue.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
the outlawed one shot.
Yeah, it was one of those or both of those came out like before, and then we started getting the rest of the Champions.
Right. I believe that's correct because I was hesitant to say we had 2 issues of it, but then I forgot there was that one shot.
Right.
So that makes more sense in my memory now, because it did seem, in fact, like we had, that this was a little rush, but we had in essence 6 issues, including the one shot,
right, but
to resolve this opening arc.
Right, but I still get what you're saying about that because it still does, even with that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it was, because one is at the end of a relatively natural arc in comic books anyway, they were going to do something, or could have had one more issue,
right.
To
it's like, how long do you want to give? How much time do you want to give to the breakout? That's really what it came down to.
Right.
And it did also feel like they addressed some of the issues in the breakout fairly well too. They had characters who asked, "Hey, are you here to rescue just the Champions or the rest of us?" Because there was one character. It's I'm not sure which character that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that was either, but
it could be just some unnamed teen hero at this point. Because if there's one thing that Bob Quinn's art, because of the lockdown, because of the I hesitate to call them prison uniforms, but that's almost what they are. That's essentially what they are.
Yeah.
It was a little hard to pick out Bombshell. Could not figure out who that was to save my life until someone mentioned who that was. So, because of that, it was hard to kind of figure out if that was supposed to be someone we're supposed to recognize. That who I'm referring to, and who Roddykat and I are referring to, is this one character who asks, "Are you here to get us all out, or just the rest of the Champions?" And it turns out they're just there to bust everyone out of lockdown. So
right, yeah, that was definitely not. Yeah, that was definitely a different character. From whether that character shows up again or whether we supposedly know who that was is not quite sure. But yeah,
exactly. So, but in any event, I think we're done with this issue. But it was nice to see this arc finally reach, like you said, kind of a natural end, and we will see what a new artist and a new writer have in store for this team going forward. And Champions, I still think, is a criminally underread, underappreciated book. So
Agreed.
if you're out there, and you're looking for something new to jump on, that kind of touches upon the zeitgeist of today, Champions, I think, is one of those books.
Yeah, it's also one of those books that as I've probably said this probably when when Outlaw first started. I do wish this book wasn't so tied into an event, and I do wish they were allowed to have. Now, granted, I mean, this is we don't know how long this is going to go, and they've had little longer arcs in past volumes, but sometimes either an event kind of interrupts it, or they just cancel the book for whatever other reason to restart it again at the start of an event, which is kind of annoying.
I was about to say, Outlawed is kind of a weird event because it's their event.
True.
It's not a line-wide event, and their corner of the universe is pretty small.
But still,
although Outlawed, but the events of Outlawed did trickle out into the rest of the Marvel universe in general. Just to get a quick mention of Cradle out in there, in several books. But it did seem like Outlawed was a fairly contained event. I think they're lucky that they never had to touch King in Black. We'll see if that lasts.
That is, you know what, and yeah, that is pretty interesting actually. And I guess because it was thought that coming out of this, we thought some of the stuff got kind of rearranged because of King in Black, which there are a lot of books that had,
right?
And another event that had. So we was thinking that could have been the case, but yeah, I guess throughout Outlawed that did not happen. Like I know, even with Miles's book, that just touched on King in Black with the last episode, issue. So yeah, who's to say whether they're gonna at the very least, because I would imagine King in Black is pretty much over at this point. I'm not sure.
It is almost over. It should be done by the end of this month because April brings a new set of stories setting up the next big event, which is Heroes Reborn.
Yeah. So, and there you go. And that's another one that we do know champions are going to get affected by because of some things we have already found out about. But we'll see. In what form.
I think what's funny is that before we move on to the next book, it sounds like we're just dealing with crossover issues. What I think is cool is that it's obviously a bit of a money grab because they're just putting out additional one-shots, but it seems like any effects on the main books are going to be limited to maybe Avengers, because that's where the event is kind of emanating from.
True, but Champion is kind of related to Avengers in a way.
Oh, but what I was going to say is we'll see. We'll see how the solicits bear out. But my suspicion is that they're going to let the vast majority of books play out the way they normally would, but have one-shots that show how the characters really cross over into King in Black, Heroes Reborn. But that's obviously not the case with every book. I know there's got to be, just like in King in Black, there's some direct tie-ins. Like Sword this week, for example, had a 2-issue tie-in with King in Black. We didn't get to Sword. It's actually not on our list of books we're going to talk about this week, but I know that the second crossover issue of Sword into King in Black came out this week.
Right.
That's one of a few books that have had 2 issues cross over into King in Black, like Daredevil. Like Fantastic Four actually is going to have 2 issues cross into King in Black. So my hope is that Heroes Reborn doesn't have too many books that have actual crossover issues, and that they just sort of keep it in the realm of contained one-shots.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. Oh yeah, but the only things I say about the champions things is yeah, if they do touch on King in Black, it'll probably be like I would assume at this point it'll probably be like a reference to yes, like yeah, all that stuff happened, or at the very least somehow catching it up to that in some kind of way that doesn't necessarily well. Well, no, because some of that's been taken care of in other books, so I wouldn't imagine the Champions doesn't have to have a direct tie because obviously we know Kamala's involved and Miles is involved in King of Black. So, but that being the case, we will move on to I think the other book that we both read this week is Iron Man #7, correct?
Yes, Iron Man #7. It's written by Chris Cantwell with art by Cafu, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. And the one thing I will throw in before Roddykat takes on the sum of the book, the summation of the book, really, the review of the book, is that the cover actually happens in the book. It's something that Roddykat mentioned over the course of time, and I jumped in and said, yeah, that's something we need to bring up. The cover actually does happen in this book. Maybe not the actual welding that we see in this Alex Ross cover, but very close.
Indeed. Indeed. Wait. Yeah, but so yeah, that definitely being said, because yeah, that is something we used to bring up a little bit more than than we have than we have.
Oh, it's like Marvel's listening, right?
Yeah, right. I was trying to look up something real quick, but that's fine. So yeah, this is basically Tony and his new team who may or may not have been christened with a new name during the course of this, thanks to what was his name? Not Toad. Frogman.
No, I was about to say there's two names given to this team.
I know, but I think
right? The first one was an insult to the original team. Let's be honest. And this and the second one is Frogman.
So okay, so and
I was about to say we're I almost wanted to say we're insulting Toad with that one, but yeah, it's Frogman.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to bring up that first one.
I think you said Frogman, right?
I said Toad and then I said Frogman. Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say what's funny is that actually harkens back to one of the earliest appearances of Frogman, where Toad, Frogman, and Spider-Boy were fighting to be Spidey's sidekick. I will refer Roddykat to that specific issue when I have a chance. Maybe I'll just look it up while he goes into the sum. Go ahead.
Sure. So on that first name that was given, I thought it was a Star Comics book. But they also say that it's definitely a reference to Star Wars. It's too close to Star Wars, and it is a reference to Star Wars. In fact, the Star Wars comic book.
Right.
Well, actually, not well, technically, because basically, from what I'm seeing here, is like Star Warriors was the protagonist, the term for the protagonist of the original trilogy series, used primarily in the Marvel Comics book. So, and the name was only used by the narrator in captions or on the issue's cover. So there was that, but I could have sworn there was like a Star Comics book called Star Warriors that that was a reference from, but I don't see that here anywhere. That being said, though, so we get into this issue. We see Tony and team chasing down Korvac and his team trying to go to Tatu to get some steal some power, steal a cup of power from Galactus. And yeah, this is pretty much now we're Iron Man in space, aka Star Wars, aka Top Gun in space, as this whole issue pretty much gets into a space battle after some actually almost Wrath of Khan like, now that I think about it, because Tony figures that he could he figures out a way to communicate with Korvac, which causes Korvac to pretty much turn around and chase him. Not unlike the Con of Note, and they get into a space battle. And something happens to one of the crew, namely the person that is mentioned, while the other folks are in this fight. There's also a discussion that honestly kind of put me back to WandaVision, and a certain meme in WandaVision that came later on, because there was a discussion on what or who God is, while in the early parts of this. So obviously you can kind of make a certain meme.
Yeah,
out of that. But
and shout out to Isaac Christians, the gargoyle on that one.
Right, exactly. Come drop it in as a Frogman says, or with the mic drop. But yeah, so but the basic crux of this issue is there's a they're going after Korvac. They chase him down. There's the whole God talk thing, but there's also just a space battle where I could almost see at one part the dude, that new dude that whose name I just totally forgot just then. When Rhodey told him to gun it, I just imagine a Fast and Furious style shifting the shifter into gear in a drift. That could have happened after that point, but that's a missed opportunity, which is fine. So, but that's pretty much the crux of this issue, and we see Tony in an actual different place than the rest of the crew while this is going on at the end of this book. And I don't know if we are made to know these people that show up, but I don't think so. So I don't know if you have anything else to go off.
Oh,
on
you
that
mean
one?
at the end?
Yeah, at the end.
Oh, did it ring any bells to you?
No.
I fought really hard with my jumbled comic book memory when I read this to try to figure it out. I did not want to go to the internet and see if anyone had tried to crack this yet.
Right, and it could be possible that it's just somebody brand new.
What's that?
It could be possible that this is a brand new group of people that we have not seen before. We're just overthinking it.
Right. But at the end of the day, I didn't go to investigate whether or not our esteemed, I call them our esteemed colleagues in comic book reporting. The main comic book websites often post articles on reveals a little bit too early for my taste.
Agreed.
So, but the Amazing Spider-Man issue I was referring to is Amazing Spider-Man 266. I was actually under the mistaken impression it was an issue of Peter Parker Spectacular, but it's actually Amazing Spider-Man 266. And I remember this issue fondly as a kid. It was just so silly. It was in the black Spider-Man costume era.
So wait, was it? If I remember the color, the cover, it was Black Suit Spider-Man. And he was kind of holding the two.
Correct.
Yeah, I do remember this. Yeah, and
Frogman and Toad.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a silly book.
Yep. As I'm looking at I do remember this. I remember actually reading this actually. So, and yeah, that very much was without actually revisiting. I recall it being a quite silly issue. So, but yeah, for those of you who want that little bit of that little nugget, you can go check that out. If you so wish to. That being said, though, I think we've pretty much rung out Iron Man 7.
I think so, and this is where we diverged this week because after these two books, we read vastly different. We went in vastly different directions in terms of our reading choices. So,
oh wait, there was one more thing, because at the very beginning of the book, there was we get to see a power upgrade from, or we get to see basically both Iron Man and War Machine, aka Rhodey, get upgrades, and them talking while that's happening. So
I was about to say what I was hoping for is an explanation as to why the War Machine armor looks like it does in the movies, but You know,
we're not gonna. Yeah, they're
it
not
was an
gonna.
artist. It was an artist choice. We know that.
Yeah, yeah. There was probably no specific reason outside of that.
Mhm. Pretty much.
So anyway, but what were you saying? Yeah, we do have different books. So if you got one you want to go ahead and talk about, go first.
You know what? There's one book out this week
Okay.
that most of our fans will know I read first. I absolutely jumped right into this book
Mm.
because I am an ardent fan and a follower of what has been happening, and that is Black Knight. No, I'm kidding. Not
Jeez.
the Black Knight book this week, but instead it's Thor number 13.
Mm. Okay.
And it's written by Donny Cates with art by Nick Klein, color art by Matt Wilson, letters by VC's Joe Sabino. And this is issue 5 of the 6-issue story arc titled Prey, and this has been the reintroduction of Donald Blake into the Marvel Universe, and it has been an incredible story arc. It has involved lots of intense action, and in this issue, some serious soul searching, some serious intervention. We get a little bit of insight into what has happened to Odin since he has granted the Odin power upon Thor and given up the throne of Asgard, where he's been, who he was with at least initially, and what developments have happened and what is possibly being teased. Um, there is a panel that makes it look like, no, two panels really, that makes it look like Odin and Freya were in therapy, which made me laugh. And
Hmm.
it's right out of the gate. It's nothing too involved, but if Roddykat has a chance to flip through it, he'll see it's right at the beginning. But as is typical of many Asgardian stories, um, the Asgardian gods, when they get down in the dumps, they drown their sorrows in alcohol. Interestingly, it's implied that this is probably not mead, but it may be mead. It's not exactly being served in the halls of Asgard, but he's drowning himself in his sorrows, where Jane Foster Valkyrie has gone to find him and kind of snap him out of this, because essentially this entire mess involving Donald Blake started with him. We get some great cameo appearances to try to get things in motion to lead us into the last issue of the story arc, to try to get some resolution, hopefully. So there is a bit of, I don't want to say rush, because I think the developments have been natural in this over the last several issues, last 2 issues specifically, moving in this direction, getting the ple it's really where the last, let's say, 1 to 2 issues have put several pieces into play, and all those pieces decided to move roughly at the same time in this issue. So we have Throg, we have Lockjaw, we have a little bit of Loki, and throw in some Doctor Strange to boot. We have um, the uh, kind of solution to a relatively long-standing problem that's part of the core of this story arc. But we have the lead up to a great cliffhanger confrontation at the end of this issue. When I read it, I thought to myself, you know what? I almost thought of that. And that's the best thing, because in my mind, I thought, well, this is a possibility. And of course, I should have gone with the more obvious possibility. And, but it's still it still goes, it still plays out very well. It's executed very well. The art, while I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Nick Klein's kind of facial expressions, I think the art is appropriately epic, and I really love um, Cates's story here, and I like that his influences obviously are very strong. This is a great new story arc, and a great new addition into one of the really cool Thor stories. Especially dealing with a long, uh, I don't want to say buried, but a long dormant uh, story piece, a character, long dormant character, really, because it's not just that Donald Blake was a dormant character, but it's also um, a dormant part of Thor's story that is brought back into play, and I think that has been one of the better developments of Cates's run. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of the Herald of Galactus part,
Mm-hmm.
but this has been very, very good.
Gotcha. Would you say that this gets to the Thor core of the matter?
Not necessarily, but I love the fact that Throg plays a great role in this.
Nice. Wookie. Sounds like a plan. I don't know. Like I said, I did say I was going to try to catch up with this arc because you've been talking glowingly about it since this volume rather since this volume started.
Right. I mean, if you haven't started it yet, we're getting a little deep into um, trying to catch up.
Mm,
I would actually tell you, if you really wanted to get up to date, you could just read the Prey issues here. So going back to like issue 9
mm-hmm.
or 8, when no, issue 8, when this Prey arc starts, you could start there. You don't necessarily need to read the Galactus stuff to understand what's going on here.
Sure.
So if you really wanted to just jump past that, I don't necessarily blame you. One and two, I think it's far more entertaining to just get to this arc.
Mm. Gotcha. Okay. That being said, then I am going to throw out a book real quick, and then we can go to rapid fire. Spider-Woman number 10. Creative team of writer Carla Pacheco, artist Perry Perez, and I spelled that wrong. Color artist Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this pretty much brings home this arc of the story. The first arc of not the first arc of the story, but pretty much culminates the ending of everything that's culminated since issue 1 of this. So it's basically a big fight again between Jess and Octavia, who had been both a bad guy and also some slight bit of help in the last couple of issues. But then this is pretty much them two against each other again, for I guess seemingly the last time, as it looks like in this. We end up seeing Jess's the original reason why Jess was doing all of this gets settled, and I guess I don't know. I know you fell off of this book, Agent 70.
Right.
But I don't know whether you were going to maybe check this out.
I skimmed this just to see how it plays out, because I know that there is going to be a new direction after this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's pretty much that, and the whole thing that started this whole thing off has been resolved at the end of this book with a little help from the High Evolutionary, who Jess was looking for at the beginning of this volume, and seemingly, possibly, we still don't know because there was a little blurb in there about some things, her Jess was basically trying to do to secure herself and her kid, and it sounds like that only time will tell whether anything is going to happen to the kids and such, which pretty much could say that, hey, somebody could gin up something that might harken back to this and say, like, yeah, well, while it was cured, this was a side effect, and the kid's going to have some other powers outside of the ones he already has, or something or other. Who's to say how that's going to go? But after this all over, we get Jess going on her apology tour, as we see, going around to everybody she's pretty much either messed with, hurt, or messed around during the course of the last 10 issues. And last one being, of course, her bestie, Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, which is, I guess, also weird because I know she has a book coming out, which that's I think you're talking about, and I don't know if Jess was in here, and I know that none of this probably will play out there, even if that was the case. But their relationship has always been kind of interesting and sometimes messy, especially in the last few years. Specifically,
what I was going to say, they benefit from the fact that both of them have an increased increased levels of exposure, and now are able to play off each other in their own books, respectively.
Right. And both have some on the very outside of that convoluted histories.
Oh, definitely, more so Spider-Woman, but definitely convoluted on both sides.
Carol's guy got messed around on a few different occasions which actually, I wonder if it's something with the mantle of Captain Marvel that kind of happens, because outside the original Captain Marvel, both of the ones that we know previously as the current Captain Marvel being Carol, and
I was about all three since Marvel.
Well, I guess that is true. Yeah. Since Marvel has pretty much gone through
convoluted stories.
Yeah, and multiple name changes.
Genisville also. So
yeah, I didn't think about Genis
and Carol.
Yeah, but also come from going through multiple name changes.
Right. That's part of the convoluted story.
Mm-hmm.
I just had one question before we move on, and it's kind of spoiler territory. So spoiler bell, minor spoilers.
Sure.
What happens to Jessica's sister or half sister, or what is it? Her cousin? No, it's her niece. That is.
So,
it's her niece, right?
It's her niece. Yes, because she found out
missing brother. Spoiler alert! I kind of phantomly rang the spoiler bell because there's a lot revealed in this arc.
There was, and that was early on.
Right. In this arc that involves Spider-Woman's new costume, we get the reveal that Jessica has a long-lost brother that she didn't know about, or didn't remember, that is.
Right.
And now she has a niece that she had no clue about, right? Whatever happened to her?
So
I didn't necessarily see that when I skimmed it. That's why.
Right. So they basically said that because of the cure that Jessica gets and what can be administered to her son, presumably it could also help, because it was even mentioned like, yeah, what about my son? What about this girl whose name I'm saying? Basically saying like, yeah, we don't. Which kind of links back to what I was just saying. It's like High Evolution basically says that, he pretty much thinks it's going to work, but there's no telling whether there's going to be any long-term effects or any effects that come out like later on. So they're basically cured, but there could potentially be something that happens later on.
Got it.
To either one of them. And the way this whatever was going on with Jessica works, it kind of affects the women of the family more so than the men. So her son was less affected, even though he was affected, but less so than this niece.
Got it.
That we're going to find out. So who's to say that and we already know the son's already got power, so that's is what it is. But the niece may come back later on and end up being a new Spider person or something. We don't know.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, but they basically was like, yeah, it's supposed to help, but we don't know if there's anything long term that happen. There was also an appearance of Jeff the Land Shark, which I know a lot of people don't know of, but if you've read the last volume of West Coast Adventures with Kate Bishop and them, you will know who that character is. Also, it only comes up as a reference in a toy form and not necessarily actual forms, but that was still kind of funny to see. But yeah, like I said, it's pretty much neatly wrapped up, and like I said, at the end of this, we see Carol and Jess talking, trying to mend fences, because it was a lot, and they, recognition of their whole friendship was kind of put out there also. So, but they came out seemingly going for a better start from here. We'll see if that plays out, because who knows? People tend to write people a certain way at one point, and then somebody else will come along and just do it differently. As I'm hoping you're going to explain something with Captain Marvel Spirit, because I just saw something in an article that I don't know. I can't remember if it happens in this issue or is going to happen in the next issue. Okay, you may or may not know what I'm talking about then.
Yep.
About a certain relationship.
Sure. And I'll get to it.
Yeah, but that being the case, that's pretty much Spider-Woman number 10 for this week. It was a pretty good read, and like I said, it wrapped up things nicely and neatly, and it was also slightly touching at the end with Jess and Carol talking. That being said, we can go on to rapid fire.
Alrighty, firing it up right now.
Right, watch those comic book shelves, everybody. It's rapid fire.
Still got to come up with a sound effect that's, fire or something like that. Something, something along those lines. But
yeah, Ejectocito is taken.
That's so funny. Yeah, we really went in different directions once our books in common ran out.
Although we almost had one more book in common, because if I didn't get if I almost got to your first one on your list, but I didn't get a chance to, because I still need to read the first issue.
Gotcha. All right. Let me start with King in Black Spider-Man number 1. I actually have another book I wanted to add to my list, because I did get X-Force number 18 in this week, and I will cover that. But let me start with King in Black Spider-Man number 1. It's written by Jed MacKay with pencils in the main story by Michelle Bandini, inks by Michelle Bandini and Elisabetta D'Amico, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. It's essentially the same group on the small backup story, but with art by Alberto Albuquerque. We've reported in the recent past that Marvel is going to be making a push with a certain character, a certain youth character who has been around. It's not his first appearance. It's not anything. It's not a new character or anything. The character's been around, was introduced a while ago, was in Avengers Academy, made its way into Avengers Arena. But the character I'm referring to is Reptile. And Reptile makes an appearance here as a star guest player in the Spider-Man King in Black one-shot. And that's essentially the crux of the story. Spidey has a weird little, there's a little bit of a story point here that's made by Jed MacKay that doesn't necessarily wash, although I can't remember if it's been made clear that the symbiotes have been on Earth for a while. That's been part of the Venom storyline, but Spidey seems to still be under the mistaken impression that a lot of this stuff is his fault because he brought the Venom symbiote to Earth, but symbiotes had already made their way to Earth previously, as revealed in the pages of Venom. But that being a minor nitpick, It's the impetus for this story, and what we get is Reptile partially giving. Well, they give each other a little bit of support during the King in Black crisis, and that's really what it boils down to. But it's also a big push for Reptile moving into the future.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would give him um, a major guest role, a major guest appearance in the King in Black Spider-Man one shot as a means of gaining more attention uh, in preparation, or as part of, not even in preparation of, but as part of Marvel's push to make Reptile a thing, to make him a more prominent character.
Mm-hmm. Which I was going to, I was going to mention that real quick, and the fact that they're definitely doing that. But I'm like, did it actually have to happen in King in Black? But I guess if they were going to do it, I guess this would probably be a better place than not.
Right. And we've been sometimes critical, sometimes not, of how Marvel uses these big events as a launching point for new characters.
Right.
And it's just another. This is just another in the another, or at least the latest in a long line of character pushes that come out of events.
Like Black Knight again.
Right.
Again. But also, I was going to say real quick that you were talking about Spider-Man taking, thinking it's his fault. That's a pretty Spider-Man thing.
Right. No, and I think for the most part, that was that was like a long-standing plot point.
Right.
For the most part, that was a long-standing plot point. But I think he was let in on the big secret that he actually isn't. It isn't all his fault. He probably plays some role, obviously, because he does bring the actual Venom symbiote to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like it's not like that was the first symbiote that made it to Earth, the first symbiote from Clintar, that is,
Right.
So, but in any event, next up is I'll jump into it. X-Force number 18, written by Benjamin Percy, art by Gary Brown, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by the always present VC's Joe Caramagna. So we follow up on last issue's fashion redo of one Quentin Quire. And we see that there has been, and it was hinted at and much more strongly established here in this issue, that the many deaths of Quentin Quire have played a role in the current story and what's happening now, and that Xeno group, Xeno group, has been making use of the many deaths of and some of the technology that the mutants have been promulgating as a result of their expansion into Krakoa, and just as part of their overall scheme to give people powers using live biological technology. I don't know if you're up to date on X-Force at all.
Yeah.
So
I just hadn't read this one, but yes, I do remember that.
So I'm not necessarily spoiling too much for Roddykat, but you can kind of see the edges I'm kind of skirting around. But in this issue, what we find is that Xeno seems to have made use of Quentin Quire's seemingly numerous deaths that have happened over the course of this book. And I'll leave it at that.
And yeah, they're also trying to make, once again, I mean, I haven't read this issue yet, but I know because of his new outfit, they're trying to, I guess, reinvent Quentin Quire in a sense, maybe trying to make him grow up a little. I don't know. As I do remember,
I'm not spoiling anything.
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling anything. So In any event, next up for me is, I'm backtracking here. Captain Marvel number 27. It's written by Kelly Thompson with art by David Lopez, colors by Triona Farrell, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So we don't get what happens on the cover, right? We actually don't. But what's on the cover is definitely a theme that is carried forward into this issue, which is as a result of the opening arc of this latest volume. Actually, no, it's not an opening arc, but the most recent arc in Captain Marvel, because we are on issue 27. And forgive me for losing track of how long this particular arc has been running, because it feels like the most recent arc kind of blended into the first arc in this book, which is more shunting Carol into another reality. In the most recent arc, it was in the first arc, it was shunting them into a reality of that was over Roosevelt Island in New York, if I remember correctly. By a certain villain, and in this case, she was shunted into a possible random future that had lots of kind of, well, definitely dystopian, but definitely some particular issues that happen in her, that could happen in her life, in her possible future, that causes her to come back and spoiler alert if you're not up to date on Captain Marvel, but she breaks up with James Rhodey Rhodes because of what happens in the future, and possibly looking to get something that she sees in a possible future to actually happen, because she deems it to be in Rhodey's best interest. Obviously, this isn't how Rhodey sees things in the current, in the present day, but this issue is all about kind of breaking Carol out of the funk that she falls into after breaking things off with Rhodey, and none other than Jessica Drew, the aforementioned Spider-Woman, is at the lead of trying to get things moving forward, and it all goes badly. But it's a very modern, it is a very, very modern intervention that Jessica performs on Carol. It's very much a girlfriend to girlfriend thing. What I love about this is that this is a story that almost has to be told by, it has its nuances from a female perspective. And what's cool is that, it is a female writer. And there are lots of things in this that could be butchered if it was, in fact, a male writer trying to write from the female character's perspective. That could be. Not saying that it's impossible, that it could be done well. But in this case, I think that Kelly Thompson portrays this particular emotional character arc pretty well for Carol. And what Roddykat was mentioning earlier, without spoiling anything, actually does happen at the end of this issue and leads us into a direction that has been teased in solicitations. And we were trying to figure out how that happens. We figure out that this is the road that the character goes down to get to that point.
Right, and I believe we may have a news story on that front. When we get to that point. So yeah, it's interesting to me. I haven't been keeping up on Captain Marvel, but outside of through Agent 70 talking about this, but I do I do recognize a little bit about her relationship with Rhodey, which was also kind of it kind of came from out of nowhere. One, back in the pages of, I want to say, Kelly Sue DeConnick's initial run, or somewhere therein.
Right. It's one of those, yeah, it was one of those things that kind of made sense because they're both Air Force.
Right. But also, like, when did this have? It was also kind of a matter of fact. I do remember even then, like, when would this even have happened? Like, yeah, they're both military and they're both Air Force, and I was like,
specifically Air Force. Yeah, specifically Air Force.
right. But I was like, well, wait, when did they even? When would they even have had met, or when did this happen? But we never actually get that, as far as I know, ever anywhere. So that was always a big thing. But there's also, even then, they always mentioned it was like on and on again and off again of sort. So
and part of it is also Carol's convoluted history, which we referred to earlier.
right.
This character has been around forever, so it's hard to kind of figure out, where they are in the rubber band Marvel timeline. So,
right. But chances are this probably something that came on later, and not early in. I said chances are it's probably something that came later and not earlier. But it's a very good chance that they could have met, obviously, early on. And
yeah, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not starting a romantic relationship that early, but at least crossing paths.
Right.
Because when we were introduced to James Rhodes, I don't think Carol was around in the pages of Avengers at that point. I think she had already been taken away by Marcus, if I'm not mistaken.
That seems possibly true, yes. So that being said, it's kind of interesting that they were in a relationship this long. Actually, I'm kind of surprised that they've been in a relationship for this long. One, and two, the fact that they chose to go ahead and get rid of it when it was never been played up as a big thing.
Right.
During the course of these last Captain Marvel's been Captain Marvel about almost 10 years now, almost, I guess. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But it's been.
I don't think so.
Wait, was it 2011? 20? I don't remember, but it's been a while since she's been Captain Marvel, basically. Regardless, and that whole thing even got brought up as a thing. So regardless, like I said, that part right there was like, that's interesting that they do that. But I guess as a point to get her from one place to another, I guess it is a thing that had to happen, I suppose. I don't know.
Yes, I guess. All right. Well, anyway, getting back to my rapid fire. Next up for me is Radiant Black #2. It's written by Kyle Higgins with art by Marcelo Costa and letters by Becca Carey. We get an immediate follow-up on the events of the first issue where and I'm keeping the super broad because it is intriguing. It definitely involves lots of current events, or at least current possible storylines and story ideas and plot driving items, both economic and just technology wise as well. But at the end of the day, what we have is the main character, and his name. What's bad is that his name is escaping me, and that's never a good sign. But this particular story happens in Middle America, and in some, it's very much one of those spacefaring origin stories, in a sense, where something mysterious happens to take over or give a regular Joe powers. In this case, it seems like he has an opposite, and it's that opposite that has played a role in moving the story forward, because that is where this character finds himself looking for the opposite of his Radiant Black costume, I guess, without for lack of a better term, because it's not like he's given himself a name. A superhero name. So ultimately, it's a pretty interesting story. Roddykat, you read the first one?
No.
It's worth it to catch up, because I think it'll read fairly quickly for the first two.
Okay.
And last for me, I don't think I've skipped anything else, is the Captain America Anniversary Tribute #1. And there's a multitude of creators on this. So I'm not going to go through this. It's an exhaustive list, but these anniversary tributes are essentially of the same concept, which is putting together the original appearance of the character and maybe a couple of key early appearances, and having current creators come in and put their own takes on these stories. So what this book covers is Captain America Comics #1, Meet Captain America, which was Joe Simon and Jack Kirby's original story. Captain America Comics #1, Riddle of the Red Skull, which was also by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. And Avengers #4, which we are all familiar with, I hope. Captain America Joins the Avengers, which is the original story, which has the original story by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And these artists have all put their own touches upon. It looks like they're all limited to one page, which is definitely jarring for the reading experience. But what's great, at least for folks who recognize art styles right away, it's great to see new modern art styles on comic pages that you're familiar with, that Kirby did, and you can see what liberties some artists have taken with layout and story flow and page flow and panel flow from Kirby's original pages, but the spirit is still there and it still shines through. Of note is specifically the page done by, and I didn't have a chance to compare, but just going off of my memory, the page that Alex Ross does of from Avengers #4, where they pull Captain America, where the Avengers pull Captain America in from the ocean, and they reveal that it's actually Captain America that they pull in. So it was pretty. It's it rang pretty true in my mind, and it was a great rendition of a classic page. And that is it for me.
All right, solid. For myself, we start off with The Next Batman, Second Son #4, written by John Ridley, pencils by Travel Foreman, inks by Mark Morales and John Livesay, colors by Rex Locus, and lettering by Darren Bennett. So we are still kind of at the beginning of Future State with this story, and at the end of last issue, I guess the eldest Fox sister, Tam, I guess Tamara, had fallen ill. Well, not fallen ill, so had fallen out. And this is basically thanks to a footnote that we found out it is from a volume of Batwing, which I would assume is the last volume of Batwing, where something sounds like something happened that involved the Fox family as a whole, and some kidnapping that apparently happened to the two sisters that Luke, who is Batwing, took care of, I guess. So we still don't necessarily know what Jace's part of what he did is wrong, but we do find out, because like I said, this was stuff that wasn't new, that was news to me, because I had not read Batwing enough to know enough to keep it with what happened. So I didn't know this was following anything that actually happened previously. But regardless, she's in the hospital again. The family kind of not necessarily comes together, but based from that, both Luke and who is in the bat suit at this point, who is in a kind of a Batman Beyond looking-ish kind of suit at this point, and not his I guess it was kind of his Batwing, and maybe it might have been what he ended up with at the end of Batwing. I'm not entirely sure, honestly, but Luke gets a kick in the booty from his little sister Tiffany. Let's say I think that it is Tiffany. Jace, aka Tim, gets another shot at Arcadine, who he was after in the first issue of this book, when Arcadine ends up coming to Gotham, coincidentally. And from I guess what from that and what ends up happening in this issue, Jace decides to try out the family business at the end of the issue. So we see him kind of talking to Lucius again about coming on board Fox Tech. So where that goes from here, find out next issue. Next up, Transformers Back to the Future #3, written by Kevin Scott, with art by Juan Samu, colors by David Garcia Cruz and Candace Hahn, letters by Neo Yuyatake. And I hope I pronounced that right. So if I didn't, I apologize. But Biff gets in trouble with his overlords. But Biff is also Biff, because if you did not know, the Transformers has invaded Hill Valley back in 1984, 5-ish. So therefore, this crossover is, the blending of two pop culture icons, franchises rather. So the characters pretty much play like they are. So Biff is Biff. The parents are kind of versions of themselves. Doc Brown comes in to save the day, because which is his first interest into this crossover, and he and Marty end up kind of doing some saving of the day, along with one of the newer Transformers, let's say, not Gigabyte, because Gigawatt, excuse me, is pretty much the Transformers. And if you've been around here for a couple of shows, you know that there is an actual Transformer figure for Gigawatt, which I now own, but this other one, Skills, which is pretty much the hoverboard, hasn't had a figure yet, and I kind of want it. And I say all that to say this, because there is another Transformer that comes out at the end, that shows up at the end of this book, that has to do with a kind of an iconic location in the Back to the Future franchise. And no, it's not the mall, but it's another place. And I pretty much say in my notes, Mom, I want this new Transformer, because if you know how Transformers run and a couple of the, let's say, bigger ones, you kind of get an idea there. But this is a fun read that I kind of been enjoying. It's like some of these Transformers crossovers are, actually most of them have been pretty fun, so I can't say that I haven't been enjoying them, but some of them are a little bit better than others, and some of them are a little bit more amusing than others. I would say worth a read if you are interested in a crossover between these two franchises, put it that way. But last but not least, the Trials of Ultraman. So this is the new miniseries from Marvel, coming off of that last Ultraman miniseries. And this is written by Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom, for both because of the backup story also that both of them are writing. Art by Eduardo Ferragato, color artist Marcelo Costa, letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. And I believe the backup has art by Guri Hiru. So, basically, like I said, this starts a new arc where I'm not sure why they made this into a new arc as opposed. I mean, a new miniseries as opposed to just like kind of continuing from the previous miniseries. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of weird, but we see Shin doing Shin and Ultraman doing Ultraman business under the sea, and at this point, the USP has gone public, which at the end of the last miniseries, that's what they decided to do, which is like, again, why it was so weird that they decided to make it into a brand new miniseries as opposed to a continuation of, the thing. But so that's going along. Shin's kind of wondering, well, why not have him, go public with his idea as opposed to keeping that part secret, even though the USB in itself is public. And, the director was like, nah, there's a reason why we don't do that. And you're too naive. And to understand why that is, because Shin's still young. We also get some dialogue between him and his dad, which I could have sworn in the Ultraman history was another Ultraman, but I could be wrong about that. And I don't know who this person was, and I could be totally wrong about mixing up my histories here because I'm not that person Ultraman. But also we pretty much in the start of this arc get reintroduced at the end to a former Ultraman who has come back for some reason that we don't know about yet, but they're in a little bit of trouble, and so Shin and the crew at USB are tasking themselves to save this person, and I guess potentially find out why this person is back and may possibly have no memories of what's going on. So that's pretty much how that goes, and that, folks, is the end of my books.
All righty.
So we got
Let's
clicks of the week.
get our clicks of the week, I guess.
So we don't have yet. Well, I guess yeah. So we don't have clicks
Yeah.
from our absentee folks.
Right, we kind of got the notice out to them a little late tonight, folks. So
No, I totally did it beforehand, but
no,
just
the wrong
didn't.
chat. That's why you'll see it twice.
Oh,
That's why. I didn't want to spoil the inside baseball part of that, but yeah.
Okay, I was wondering why you did the same thing, but okay.
You see it now?
Yeah, I did see it, and I do see it now. I damn sure didn't see that earlier. Okay.
Right.
So yes, so 87 is right. So we definitely
apologize
didn't
for
put that out there until late, apparently. So we probably won't. It ends. Sometimes they won't. They're busy and wouldn't answer anyway. So it probably wouldn't matter one way or the other. But regardless, you got yours?
Oh, mine's easy.
Okay.
Mine's easy. Thor number 13.
Probably should have guessed that. All right, Thor number 13 for you, and for myself, Like I said, this is kind of one of those weeks where let's say, yeah, there are decent books, but nothing like just really pops out at you.
Right. I was pretty fortunate that Thor came out this week because it is a lighter week.
Right.
And I wonder why it's a light week at the, it's like right in the middle of the month. It's kind of weird that this would be kind of like a light shipping week of comics. Maybe they thought, well, everyone's celebrating St. Patty's, so they won't go to the comic book store.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that, but
it'd be funny if that was the case, right?
That would be funny if that was the case. Yeah, that kind of foresight would be interesting. So I guess I'm going to go with, it was a fun book of the week, as I said previously, Transformers Back to the Future number 3.
Sounds good.
So with that, we are going to go into the news, but first, an ad read.
I was going to add that the book that Roddykat made his click of the week this week sounds like when they said, who is the target demographic for this book? And a picture of Roddykat came up.
Me, yes. Very much so.
So our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And to be fair, if you're of a certain vintage, you can't help the nostalgia, the nostalgia since it's just tingling at the prospect of Transformers and Back to the Future kind of commingling, you know. But yes, folks, the news section, we can start off as we do with the cinematic news. Again, we no WandaVision stuff because that's already done, and we are short 3 to 4 hours away from Falcon and Winter Soldier happening, so be on the lookout for that next week.
Right.
So we start off with Mortal Kombat star Joe Taslim's 10-year-old son pushed him to play Sub-Zero. When Sci-Fi Wire visited the set of the upcoming Mortal Kombat movie, it was clear that all of the action actors cast in Simon McCoy's updated film adaptation, that of all of the actors in the adaptation, that actor and martial artist Joe Taslim from The Raid, Redemption, Warrior, and The Night Comes From. The Raid, Redemption, and Warrior I definitely want to watch because I still have yet to watch either one of those. Anyway, who plays Cryomancer? Why do they call him a Cryomancer? He's just a ninja that shoots eyes. Come on. Anyway, was one of the biggest fans of the franchise. It's so crazy that I'm playing the character that I played when I was a kid, Taslim said. It's a dream come true. And then it kind of goes into a little bit of his history and Taslim's history and talks about a little bit of his works. But basically, it says here that apparently Taslim was the first actor cast in the film, which, from what I know about him, hey, what a. But Taslim credits his son for helping him make the decision. Ironically, his son was only 10 years old at the time and therefore not old enough to play the 18-plus game. And he says, when my agent called me about the offer, I asked my son, which character do you think fits me best? He said, Sub-Zero, Taslim recalled, and I told my agent not to lose this job. So that's cute. I'm actually looking forward to, I've said this before, I'm looking forward to this reboot because all accounts looks good so far. But we'll see when it happens. What, June? I think June. Yeah, let's say June because I think it's going to come out. But next up.
Just a quick note, rewinding to something that Roddykat mentioned about Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel and her becoming Captain Marvel being already 10 years. I thought it was too long. He's actually only off by a year, maybe a year and a half, because apparently that reboot where Kelly Sue DeConnick and Marvel put Carol Danvers into the Captain Marvel title actually happened in 2012. It might have been 2012, but it's 2012. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, because I knew it was definitely around 2011, 2012, something like that. So yeah, I was definitely a little off on that one, but not by much. So
but only a little on the high side. Whereas I thought it was a lot on the high side. But obviously, and I've said it before, I should put it on loop. The pandemic has completely warped my sense of time. So
everybody's,
but in any event, our next story is Netflix's Resident Evil CG anime show is going to lean on some familiar voice actors. While we're still waiting to hear more about the live-action Resident Evil show that Netflix has in development, Netflix revealed that the anime is going to arrive later this year, and it's time to coincide with the game's 25th anniversary. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness will follow along as Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield investigate 2 zombie outbreaks, eventually reuniting at the White House. Leon and Claire will be voiced by Nick Apostolides and Stephanie Panicello, respectively, with the two reprising their voice roles from the Resident Evil 2 remake that came out in 2019. Netflix and Capcom will reveal more about the show during the Anime Japan 2021 event on March 27th. Shout out to the guy with the Greek last name.
Indeed.
I read that in one shot. Apostolides. I'm like, oh, snap.
Not bad. Marvel's She-Hulk and Moon Knight start shooting in a few weeks. So Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige recently sat down in an interview with The Companion. And during that interview, he offered an update on the highly anticipated Disney Plus shows She-Hulk and Moon Knight. Feige confirmed that both of these shows are scheduled to start production soon, with She-Hulk going to production first, and that'll be followed by Moon Knight a week later, he said. And there's a quote here from Feige saying, on March 19th, as you know, the Falcon and Winter Soldier will be debuting. June 11th will be the debut date for Loki. And, of course, soon after that, we'll have our first animated series, which is What If. We're finishing up Ms. Marvel and are also shooting Hawkeye currently. In a few weeks, we start She-Hulk. In a week or so after that, we start Moon Knight in addition to our features.
Wow.
Yeah, so the deck is stacked, folks. And we're about to
Stuff is coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
Stuff is absolutely coming down the pipeline, which is so wild. I don't even think they've sort of confirmed that Oscar Isaac is playing Moon Knight, Mark Spector.
I believe they all have all but no, actually I believe they've all but officially said so.
Sort of, exactly. They haven't officially announced that they've sort of done it.
Right.
You know, which is the funniest part of that. It's like, wait a second, we're not gonna just come out and say it, I guess.
Or they have and we missed it, but I don't recall seeing any official from either Marvel or him.
Right.
So, next up.
Next up, the finale of the Disney Plus series WandaVision acts as a lead-in for the upcoming film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. According to Kevin Feige, viewers will still be able to follow the Sorcerer Supreme sequel whether they have seen WandaVision or not. Speaking to The Companion about Marvel Studios' upcoming slate of television series, Feige said that discussions were had with all creative parties while connecting WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness. We've already said that Lizzie Olsen will go from WandaVision into the new Doctor Strange film. He explained there were lots of conversations with Sam Raimi and Michael Waldron and the entire Doctor Strange team that this movie needs to work for people who watched WandaVision, but more importantly, needs to work for people who didn't, who maybe Endgame was the last time they saw Wanda or one of the earlier movies, or maybe she's a character they're meeting for the first time. There will always be different layers of understanding, but we don't want there to be a barrier to entry, end quote. So that's good news. And of course, Kevin Feige is telling everybody to play nice together. So good.
Layers, like an onion. And speaking of, Shrek is returning to theaters for the 20th anniversary, which I don't remember if we mentioned previously or I had it in the thing and somehow misplaced it. But there you go, folks. Next up, though, speaking of WandaVision's pre-visual, but pre-FX visual effects. Paul Bettany shows Vision's uncanny ears. Some behind-the-scenes photos from Marvel Studios Disney Plus's WandaVision showed that the Vision Paul Bettany looked way better with Bettany's ears erased. The New York Times culture writer David Itzkoff posted a series of pre-visual effects photos of Paul Bettany's Vision on Twitter, showing the uncanny nature of the synthezoid having human-like ears. And yeah, boy, does that look kind of funny. So, and you can see the tweet in itself right there if you're watching the video version of this program, and you should sometimes, because, sometimes there's some visual treats for folks. But also, I guess this is a way to say, hey, the making of WandaVision is out there that you can watch. We talked about this last issue, or last episode. So, have at it on the Disney Plus thing if you are so inclined. Next up, Kevin Feige commented on the possible return of the MCU's versions of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. As part of the global press tour for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Feige was asked about two groups that have had a huge impact on the journey of the title characters, with both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra having spent years missing from the MCU outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the overseer of the Marvel Multiverse was asked if the rival outfits could someday return to the big or small screen. Quote, well, again, you can always look at the comics, right? Feige said, quote, we always take our lead from what has happened before, and those organizations come and go in various forms over the years, so they always could return. There are new organizations like SWORD
that you saw in WandaVision, so there's always an inherent need for above board or shadowy organizations of some kind in the MCU.
Yeah, and we know Nick Fury is up there in space doing something, so there is that. Next up, though, why Marvel Studios is determined not to debut movies on Disney Plus.
Did you skip a couple?
Not that I know of. Let me see.
Yeah.
I
would say I don't know. I usually don't skip two stories. It looks like you skipped two stories.
Oh no. I think hang on. I just placed it wrong. No wait. No. This is so where does that? Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. I moved one around for some. I don't know how that one got moved around. So
I was about to say I'll click reload on mine so I have what you're looking at.
Yeah. So yeah. No, you're right. No, like I said, I just had it in the wrong place. It wasn't necessarily a skip, but yeah. So move this one over here where it's supposed to be, and blah. This is exactly when Falcon and Winter Soldier takes place in the MCU timeline. There's probably going to be another place where there's going to be a weird ordering of the news. So, but anyway, with less than a week until, well, at the time of this article was less than a week. We're actually less than a couple of hours of. Its series creator and director shared where the series takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and why. Series creator Malcolm Spellman and series director Kari Skogland shared that the series takes place 6 months after Avengers Endgame, according to them talking to Collider. Everything narratively was informed by that event for us. It meant that we're just past the shock of it. Skogland continued, we're just past the joy of it because we're imagining that there will be a lot of joy in people returning. Now we're into the reality of it, which is complicated. The series director clarified that after half of the world's population was wiped out by Thanos, in return, you've got different economic circumstances, different border circumstances. So there we go. We now have a time frame before we even get the show. Good to know, I guess. And I know there's a lot of people. There are people who have had their hands on preview episodes of the show, or even seemingly in some cases the whole thing. We're not sure, but next up.
Oh, just a quick note. That Prey storyline in Thor actually starts with 9. I was off by an issue. So if you're looking to catch up on that story arc with Donald Blake, it starts with issue 9 and we're on 13. So it's not too bad. Next up, Ironheart star landed the Marvel role without an audition. Dominique Thorne said she was offered the part of Riri Williams / Ironheart in the upcoming Disney Plus series without having to read for it. Man, that's the life.
Right.
If you can get it. So the actress, known for her work in Oscar-nominated features like If Beale Street Could Talk and Judas and the Black Messiah, which is good and you guys should watch it.
Agreed.
Although I think it might have already left HBOMax, so it's a little late.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah. I mean, it's out there still for probably rental or whatever, right. So it's out there in some form.
Right. But it was good, so it was definitely worth catching. It's set to play the title character in the upcoming Disney Plus series Ironheart, a role she didn't have to audition for, as I said. In an interview with Empire, Thorne discussed how the House of Ideas offered her the part of teenage genius Riri Williams, saying, quote, I was so shocked, in fact, that there was a considerable lag in the conversation. I was waiting for them to say, like, quote, oh, we'll send you the sides, or get your tape over to us. But there was none of that. It was just like, would you like to do this? It was probably the most unique experience I've ever had because there was no audition at all, end quote.
So, cool.
Like I said, don't knock it.
Yeah.
You know, gift horse and all that stuff, right?
Right. And it's very, very, very rare that kind of things happen for let's say, lesser known quantity in Hollywood, much less, yeah. Let's see. Now we're back to this story. Why Marvel Studios is determined not to debut movies on Disney Plus. Kevin Feige reaffirmed his commitment to making sure that Marvel Cinematic Universe's films are seen on the big screen rather than premiering on a streaming service. Responding to Variety on why he's passionate about the theatrical experience, and I feel like there's a sound effect that could go perfectly here, but Feige said, "There you go. It's impossible not to be when you go to open a night to 23 movies in packed movie houses." Which is the reason right now not to do that, and seeing the moviegoer's reaction. That's what drives us creatively, and as we make all of these, certainly culminating in Avengers Endgame and Far From Home. There's nothing better than that, and we don't want to lose it. I'm hoping we don't have to. So yeah, as the aforementioned after done sound effect. Yeah, we know there's money involved, and definitely trying to keep wanting to keep movie theater owners happy and open.
Right.
In all of this is definitely a factor. Like I know
What I was gonna say is Kevin Feige's probably taking the
diplomatic approach.
49th most important factor and
Yes.
pushing that to the top.
Yes, it sounds good on paper, but
we all know where he's coming from, right? As moviegoers ourselves, especially as night one, day one movie watchers over here, we know what he means, but that's definitely not the most important reason why they want to put movies back into theaters and have them debut there.
Right.
So,
and I had a discussion with somebody when I posted this on Discord, on a Discord. We don't have a Discord, but I posted this on a Discord, and someone was like, somebody kind of brought up the fact. It was like, well, isn't what about the pandemic and this and that and the other? I'm like, yeah, you're not seeing what I basically said. It's like, nah, it's totally about kind of appeasing movie theater owners and movie theaters, trying to keep them open, and that just happens to look good on paper, basically. So, and then it was like, yeah, you're probably right about it upon reflection. But the way their reasoning was because we hadn't gotten Black Widow yet. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's at least of an issue also at this point. But moving right along.
Next up, Venom. The Venom sequel has been delayed out of its previously confirmed June 2021 release date. Venom Let There Be Carnage will now be released in theaters, including 3D, IMAX, and other premium large formats on September 17th, 2021, rather than June 25th of this year. Can you say because we won't all have vaccines by then?
See former point. Yeah, so I've come to find out that there are more people that I know liked the original Venom movie than I thought had actually even seen it. I still have yet to see it, and I'm still not necessarily looking forward to watching it, but science will demand at some point. And now that we know that, and we've known that they were going to do a sequel, I'm still kind of iffy about it, but here we are, folks. Next up is, come on, thank you. Some good news of sorts. Genndy Tartakovsky's, Clone Wars hits Disney Plus in April. Why it took so long, don't know. But the original Clone Wars is coming to Disney Plus and bringing some Ewok friends along with it. Star Wars Clone Wars, the 2003 Star Wars animated series that was developed and directed by Genndy Tartakovsky. If you know who that guy is. If you don't know Dexter's Lab or Samurai Jack by this point, I don't know what's wrong with you. Will be available on Disney Plus in its entirety starting Friday, April the 2nd. It'll be joined on the service on the very same day by Star Wars Ewoks, or simply Ewoks. The 1985 cartoon developed by Batman, the animated series, is Paul Dini, alongside Bob Corral. Now, a couple of things here, folks. That first Clone Wars, which I believe is not canon anymore, which is really dumb. If you're going to watch the Clone Wars series, you should watch this first and then watch Clone Wars, because they definitely do connect. Like Clone Wars, the Tartakovsky one, definitely goes directly into Revenge of the Sith. Like, spoiler alert if you've never seen it, but it definitely ties directly into that. But also introduces a couple of characters. Well, at the very least, one character. I can't remember if actually I don't think Grievous was introduced in that, but still, definitely Ventures of Asajj Ventress was, and you don't really get a formal introduction in the Clone Wars properly, which is weird. I think, and even in the movie that kind of came early on, that is technically a part of the first season. So that's being the case, that's that. Definitely check out that Clone Wars because it's great. There's some good stuff in it, and it's real short too. I think it's probably all in all a couple of hours. Because it was like basically a little like couple of minute shorts that was displayed that used to come out on Cartoon Network, and then they put them all together in like a couple of hour things in a couple of seasons. I think the second season is probably a little bit longer because they kind of extended the length of time on them. Also, yeah, Ewoks, Star Wars Ewoks, which I feel like we've talked about in at some point, came alongside or around the same time as the Droids cartoon. Why the frick they don't have the Droids cartoon on here, I do not know. It was the better show. Like, don't get me wrong, the Ewok show was cute and all that, but look, the Droid show was great. That the theme song slapped, and and I know Agent 7 is going to be like, they're probably going to put it on here sometime, and they probably will, but that's an oversight. That's not even on here, even before now, honestly, because I'm just kind of surprised they didn't have neither one of these on the service before now. And there probably some licensing issues or something that might have had to get hashed out or something, or maybe they had to find good copies of them, because again, those two cartoons were from '85, like the Clone Wars is a different subject, was probably already out there in a way. It's definitely out there in a way. So, yeah. Oh, and also, yeah, it even, like I said, it said the same day for Star Wars Droids when it came out. But also, I believe we are getting the Star Wars Hollywood holiday special on at the same time. I don't think this article says as much, but I'm fairly sure I have seen it somewhere else saying that the holiday special, the much maligned holiday special, original special, is going to be put on the service on that same day or around that day.
I was going to say, I remember the article that I sent had information on the holiday special.
Right, and I think that's where, yeah, exactly, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, but I had this article before you sent me that, so.
Right, you mentioned like we're talking a little bit behind the scenes here, folks. But when I had sent Roddykat a story about this announcement, it did involve some news about the much maligned but first appearance of whatchamacallit, of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Being coming to Disney Plus soon, so
we'll track that down. Out.
What's that?
No, so folks get to check that out, because I know it's been on YouTube for a good, in various degrees of quality, for a good minute, but now you can check it out officially.
Right. Where is that article?
Which again, why did they not have that on before they did the Lego special? I don't understand that.
It's over at our colleagues in Comic Book News or Newsarama.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, mild spoil. No, mild, not mild, because it
actually don't. Yeah, please don't say that last part, because I think the series just it just ended, and some people didn't. So that last line of that last first paragraph, maybe not put in that last little bit before the name.
The last line of the first paragraph.
And actually, I don't know why I'm sitting here. I'm showing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Because that is where the spoiler comes in for some folks, including myself, because I didn't know about that part. But it is what it is.
Right. So apparently, there's spoilers here for the DuckTales 3-part series finale, The Last Adventure, which aired on Disney XD and Disney Now on March 15th. The date of this airing and taping is Thursday, March 18th/19th. So this is just aired only 3 or 4 days ago. So spoiler alert is in full effect for you folks. So, as I said, the DuckTales reboot has come to an end, and one of its directors is thanking the fans and audience of the Disney XD series. Director Tanner Johnson wrote a sincere thank you on Twitter. And he also he posted an image of Scrooge McDuck alongside his nephews, as well as a recently revealed character.
Well, no, the character's been there. It's just that there was a revelation about that said character.
Right. So I left that out.
Yeah. And also, I can't remember if this article said something about it, but apparently there was also another reference to another Disney Afternoon staple that a bunch of people really liked that apparently plays off nicely. So, yeah, there you go. If you saw it, you know what we were talking about. If you didn't, like me, you're probably itching to actually get caught up with it at some point. Arrowverse finally fixes Team Flash's biggest problem. Let's see. The Flash finally takes care of a long time Arrowverse issue that's been floating over Team Flash, Barry Allen's intelligence. One of the recurring elements of almost all of the CW shows is that the leading hero always has a team behind him on their crusade. Some would say a man and or woman in the chair. While all different characters, there are always a few key roles, like an engineer creating advanced technology, an IT expert that can hack anything the superhero has to get through, and someone who works for the military, or at least an agency like the DEO and the Crows. So almost all of the Arrowverse teams have had someone that handles the cartoons and upgrades. And apparently Superman and Lois kind of went away from that. And it says here that, in addition to having different Welleses or whatever, that apparently, thanks to the second episode of the seventh season, that Barry's intelligence has been put on display. So, because, as we know, the character of Barry Allen is supposed to be pretty smart, in and outside of the suit. So therefore, I guess they're displaying that a little bit more now than they have in the past 7 seasons of the show. Next up.
All right, Supergirl and Lex face off in the Fortress of Solitude in first season 6 photos. The first photos from Supergirl's final season premiere, titled Rebirth, have been released by the CW. The photos tease a showdown between Lex, who now has half the world under his control, and Supergirl and her team as they struggle to free all the people under his influence. However, Lex is not the only foe Supergirl will be facing, as she will also have to take on Gamin May. Gamin May?
You got me.
You know what we have to say to that.
Who?
So
Indeed.
So there's some cool pictures, at least.
Yeah.
Roddykat, I'm sure, is scrolling through now. So.
Yep.
All right. The season 6 will kick off March 30th.
Cool. Next up, Stargirl season 2 villain Eclipso gets first look image. So as you can see from the video, you can see the tweet that was posted that shows Eclipso, which of course is a Superman villain. Excuse me. But season 2 of CW series Stargirl is due sometime this summer, and as the time draws nearer, the show is starting to come increasingly into focus, thanks to the reveals like the first image of Eclipso from the upcoming season. DC shared the image of the villain, portrayed by Nick E. Tarabay from The Expanse, on Twitter. Why does that name sound familiar? I want to say that was a Power Ranger, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Anyway, clad in full costume. Let's see. So you can see the picture here, and also I did not realize that season 1 had wrapped up. because I hadn't watched any of not Stargirl, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there you go, folks. That is that. Next.
Harley Quinn co-showrunner Justin Halpern confirmed a truly mad member of Batman's Rogues Gallery will appear in the animated series' third season. Okay. He's confirmed that classic Batman rogue known as the Mad Hatter will make an appearance when DC's acclaimed adult animated series returns for season 3 on HBOMax. The Mad Hatter is in the season, Halpern said during an appearance on the Masters of None podcast. He's a villain in one of the episodes. I will give that away. Okay.
All right. And apparently Nikki Tarabay is not a Power Ranger person, but it was from Spartacus and The Expanse. And apparently he's done some movie work, some relatively notable movie work. So there you go. So next up, hey folks, Superman the animated series is on HBOMax in HD, and you can go check it out at your leisure as of this moment. And you should. It's actually not a bad show. Like, obviously, Batman the animated series is, you know, is a more iconic show, but it's from the same people, and you know, there were some good stories in there that ended up, a couple of which ended up getting taken up from Justice League. And actually, also, you know, like I said, we got Justice League out of both of these shows, so definitely worth watching. Next up.
Already next up, Black Lightning debuts the first look at Painkiller spin-off pilot. A promo has been released for the next Black Lightning episode, which will double as a backdoor pilot for the spin-off series Painkiller. While Black Lightning is in its final seasons, fans have gotten a chance to see a native son of Freeland in an ongoing story in the spin-off series Painkiller. The spin-off was given a pilot order from the CW, and now fans have been given a first look at the potential new series. The promo for an upcoming episode highlights Khalil Payne / Painkiller, the cybernetic assassin who has been alternately an enemy and an ally for Black Lightning and his family. In it, Khalil is seen struggling with his bloodthirsty alter ego, while also highlighting his impressive combat skills and unique array of superpowers. Black Lightning showrunner Salim Akil is set to write and direct the backdoor pilot, which will air on Monday, April 12th.
Cool. DC is developing an Iron Man film. According to Deadline, the project will be penned by Gavin Games and Neil Widener, but little else is available at this time, including which incarnation of Iron Man the film centers around. And it just goes into a character history of Iron Man. So,
cool. Oh, sorry about that. An ad decided to play while I was going through something.
Not a problem. Next up,
Star Trek Strange New Worlds beams up 5 new cast members. This is the Paramount Plus Star Trek Strange New Worlds show. And production is beginning in Toronto, and has added 5 new members to its cast. There's a long list of people here. But per Deadline, Babs Olusanmokun, Christina Chong, Celia Rose Gooding, Jess Bush, and Melissa Navia have all boarded Strange New Worlds as series regulars. They join Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Rebecca Romaine, who reprised their roles as Christopher Pike, Spock, and Number 1, respectively, from Star Trek Discovery. Okay.
I had to see if the Celia Rose Gooding was related to either of the other ones, and apparently maybe not. Doesn't seem not. The Boys spinoff casts Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Star. So let's see. Jazz Sinclair has been cast as one of the young superheroes in The Boys spinoff on Amazon. Deadline reports that Sinclair will play one of the superheroes named Marie. So she's playing Rogue. Never mind. Yeah. One of the character descriptions for the Boys spinoff revealed by the Illuminati, which you can take that for what it is. Earlier this month, names a Marie Moreau. She's a little black girl from the Caribbean who dreams of becoming one of the world's greatest superheroes. She describes as incredibly intelligent and funny, but also ruthless in her pursuit of excelling at school and honoring her home. She has the pride of her nation and her family's financial future riding her shoulders as the first superhero from the Caribbean. So, if this is the case, and this little tidbit from the Illuminati can be believed, then there you go. Because as we have seen previously in the last week or so, sometimes them just are not right. Next up.
Junkie XL unleashes his monstrous themes. Ugh.
You know that joke was going to be made.
For Godzilla vs. Kong, and there's also a new poster revealed. Composer Tom Holkenborg, now we know why he goes by Junkie XL, unleashed Tom shots fired. He unleashed 2 tracks from his Godzilla vs. Kong score. One features the theme he created for Godzilla, and the other features the theme for King Kong. The tracks are titled Pensacola, Florida, the Godzilla theme, and Skull Island, Kong theme. And you can listen to what Junkie XL came up with for the music below. The poster. Oh, there's a new poster for the movie. Roddykat's probably scrolling down through it to it now. And that's that. That movie is set to show. I thought it was supposed to be the 31st. Is it the 21st now?
No, well, according to the poster, it's the 31st.
It's a typo in the article. You see that?
Yeah, I do see that. Unless they switched it, but yeah, as far as I know, and as far as I saw on.
It seems like the poster's probably right.
I think the poster's probably right because when I looked at the last time I saw the trailer thing on HBOMax, I believe it still says 31st.
Yeah, it's the 31st. That's just the typo. That's sloppy though because that's like the most important part of the news.
Yeah, and it's also in the thing that you posted in the thing. You know what?
Whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Next up though,
I'm gonna sound like Roddykat and his riff on editorial editors and lack thereof at some comic book websites.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, if y'all are hiring, I'm available. Anywho, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 officially, and I say that, and then something happens, and I do get anyway. That comes back to bite me at some point. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 officially begins production. Confirms director Jeff Fowler. So let's see. Jeff Fowler has announced on the 15th of this month, which is a few days from this episode, that production on the highly anticipated Sonic the Hedgehog is highly anticipated. Really, I don't think so. Has officially commenced. While no casting news has accompanied this tweet, primetime Emmy winner Ben Schwartz has already been confirmed to reprise his role as the voice of the titular Hedgehog, along with 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey, James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, and Lee Majdoub also are expected to return. The film, just pretty much like the video game series, is also set to formally introduce both Tails and Knuckles, although there's no word on who will be voicing the parts. Colleen O'Shaughnessy, the voice of Tails in the video game series, reprised her role in the previous film's mid-credit scene, but it's unclear whether she'll return for the sequel. I'm sitting here like, should I actually watch this movie? And I don't know the answer to that. And actually, I do need to watch Detective Pikachu before it goes off of the HBOMax. But that's a whole different situation. Next up,
Cowboy Bebop's live-action Netflix series has wrapped filming. News comes from actress Daniela Pineda, who will be playing iconic con artist Faye Valentine in the upcoming show. Pineda writes on her Instagram, I'm coming back on air to say season 1 of Cowboy Bebop is finally finished. Gonna dip again, but will return after these messages. The live action show picked up a few names from the original anime as a result of the downtime. So that's cool.
See a Space Cowboy. Agent 70 should watch this show. Not this show, but the anime.
Right, the original anime.
Because it's a classic for a reason, although it might not be everybody's cup of tea.
Hey, I watched whatchamacallit? I watched you didn't have anything in the news about Attack on Titan getting delayed because of a earthquake?
No, I don't believe I do. I'm almost certain I do not, actually.
All right.
But yeah,
well, I mean,
that
just
was
as
a
a
thing
quick
that happened.
aside,
Yeah.
I am surprisingly up to date on Attack on Titan, and for several people, I got into it for several reasons. Lots of people mentioning it to me, and a good friend asking several of his just any of his friends to catch up on that and get on top of it before it ended. And unfortunately, because of news coverage of an earthquake that happened in Japan, the news coverage happened to air right when the episode was airing in Japan, and so the episode was taken off the air, and will now air this coming Sunday back to back with the following episode. So those of us who are watching the simulcast overseas and obviously here in the States are going to see the simulcast of 2 episodes this coming Sunday. So looking forward to that. But because I didn't have a chance to watch Attack on Titan, I over time in pieces watched Princess Mononoke. So that was my anime fix.
Right. Yeah. Agent 70 getting his adding to his anime acumen over here.
Slowly but surely, folks. Slowly but surely.
Let's see. Last in the actually it's not last, I'm sorry. There is another one after this. Maybe a couple after this actually. Catwoman's mask, Die Hard lighter, Edward's scissor hand glove, and more hit the auction block. So more than 800 props from the most popular films over the past 50 years, including the aforementioned Catwoman's cowl and Harry Potter's wand, are up for auction. Let's see. The props from films as varied as Alien, Independence Day, Scarface, and the James Bond franchise are being offered up in Hollywood Legends and Luminaries auction by Julian's Auctions in April. Let's see. The cowl worn by Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns is valued at $8,000 to $12,000, along with other items from Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. The Zippo lighter used by Bruce Willis in Die Hard is valued at $10,000 to $20,000. Certified by the prop master as the only one used in the film, by the way, is also being, and the shield that went along with John McClane is also being sold, and the T-shirt and the shoulder holster rig. So let's see, and the radio. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff from various movies, including a blaster from Star Wars, from Return of the Jedi, the aforementioned Edward Scissorhands stuff, and of course a wand from one of the Harry Potter's movies, which I know a couple of Potterheads, and they would probably be chomping in bed to get this, I'm sure. Next up,
Benedict Cumberbatch's upcoming film War Magician, which is surprisingly not a Doctor Strange movie, has tapped the architect of the Jurassic World series, director Colin Trevorrow, to helm the film. Trevorrow recently wrapped production on the third entry in the Jurassic World franchise, Jurassic World Dominion. War Magician is about an illusionist who uses his tricks to help fight the Nazis and is a film Cumberbatch should be well qualified for to take on based on his prior acting credits. Ha ha, wink wink, screen rant.
Boom, boom. So yeah, there you go, folks. And now we go over into the comic book news.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Marvel to celebrate Pride Month with Marvel's Voices Pride Number 1. This June, Marvel Comics is proud to honor Pride Month with a historic celebration of LGBTQ plus characters and creators in Marvel Voices Pride Number 1. Following in the footsteps of the mega popular Marvel's Voices Indigenous Voices and Marvel Voices Legacy, Pride Number 1 will be Marvel's first ever queer-centered special spotlighting Marvel's growing tapestry of LGBTQ plus characters. The stories of inspiration and empowerment will be brought to life by an assembly of writers and artists from all walks of life, including Kieran Gillen, Olivia Coipel, Steve Orlando, Anthony Oliveri, Tini Howard, Vita Ayala, Chris Anka, Javier Garron, and many more. So check that out on 6/22, June 23rd, when that comes out. And if you're watching the video, you can see some characters that will be most likely in the book. Next up.
You know what's wild? And
What's
this
up?
is an aside.
Mhm.
I compare this to DC's.
Oh, we'll get to that.
What's that?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'm about to say we're going to get to
No,
that because there's
the same-
also a story on that.
What, they're doing a Pride thing too?
Yes.
Oh no, I wasn't going to compare it to that, so
Okay.
I won't tread upon that particular story. I was going to say I compare it to DC's attempt at the Asian Heritage Month
Right.
book, and it's just amazing to see that the characters that Marvel has put out, and some unfortunately would say recharacterized or rebooted or retconned, but at the end of the day they have created a stable of characters that are, there's a reason why representation matters, folks.
Mhm.
And it's been a steady push. As much as people push against progress, it happens, in fits and starts and sometimes leaps and bounds. And we've gotten to this point where Marvel can legitimately populate these books that celebrate characters with certain characteristics and backgrounds.
Mhm.
They can populate them with a good number of characters. It's not just some ham-handed, we're just going to grab all of the Asian characters and stick them on a cover. This is everybody we got.
See Agent 70's previous dig at these at DC's offering, what was a couple of weeks ago when we talked about that, I guess.
No, it's been like a month, but
Has
the
it been a
point
month?
is because it was in the solicitations for Asian Heritage Month. So
Right, but I think yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah, but the point is it's not that long ago. It's like, let's say let's say within the last month,
Right.
roughly. So yeah, and you look at this character, you're just like, oh yeah, you know what? They have introduced some of these characters over time,
Mhm.
and they've developed, these characters, who are going to be, and this is related to the next story which I've got, which is Marvel's Pride Month celebration continues with new covers by Phil Jimenez. So in addition to Marvel's Voices Pride Number 1, Marvel Comics will commemorate Pride Month this year with a new series of stunning variant covers by legendary artist Phil Jimenez, spotlighting Marvel's growing LGBTQ plus representation. Marvel's Pride Month variant covers will feature some of Marvel's most popular LGBTQ plus heroes, including Wiccan, Northstar, Mystique, and more. These stunning depictions will proudly adorn the covers of your favorite Marvel titles throughout the month of June. If you look at the screen, there are 4 Pride Month variant covers being shown, featuring one Iceman, America Chavez, Dakin, and Northstar.
Mhm. So there you go. Again, if you're not watching the video, you should. The video version of the program, you should sometimes. Next up.
And remember to hit like and subscribe.
Jesus. Marvel's newest Captain America is an LGBTQ plus activist.
Oh, you should have seen the vitriol that came out when people didn't read the actual article on this one.
Oh, I don't doubt it at all. The United States of Captain America, the Marvel Comics planned celebration of Captain America's debut 80 years ago in 1941's Captain America Comics #1, would introduce several new heroes, all of whom are influenced by the legacy of Captain Marvel. In the United States of Captain America, Steve Rogers, John Walker. Why did John Walker get before Sam or Bucky in this case? Anyway, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes will team up to
probably time wise. It's probably listed in order, but then Sam was actually Cap after Bucky, so that doesn't make any sense either.
So yeah, no, that doesn't fly. But anyway, we'll team up to retrieve the stolen shield of Captain America. The four heroes will embark on a road trip during which they'll meet local heroes inspired by the legacy of Captain America to defend their own communities. The first of the 5-part series will contain a backstory, introducing Aaron Fisher, created by writer Joshua Trujillo and artist Jan Balzadua. I knew you have pronounced it before, and I totally forgot how you pronounce it. But Balzadua. Balzadua? Is it Balzadua? Okay.
I mean, that's how I pronounced it. It could be Balzadua for all I know.
Gotcha. Fisher, an openly gay hero, is described as, quote, the Captain America of the railways, protecting some of the most marginalized people in society. And it says here that in each issue, Cantwell and Eaglesham, that's Christopher Cantwell and Dale Eaglesham, will be joined by a diverse lineup of all-star talent to introduce these new shield bearers and expand on their origins and motivations in thrilling backup tales, reads Marvel's reveal of the publisher's newest hero, Aaron Fisher. Let's see, the double-fucking exploration of Captain America's impact will kick off with writer Joshua Trujillo and artist Jan Balzadua, and the debut of Aaron Fisher, the Captain America of the railways. So, yeah, and that is coming out, I guess, June 2nd, which also, I was going to say something about July's solicitations, which we normally would have had by now, but I'm not sure why we'd have it, but this is coming out in June, so it doesn't really matter. Next up, though.
I was about to say the solicits are coming out super soon.
Because normally they would, right, because they would come, and it sometimes even depends, because like sometimes DC will put that out before now, or in Marvel to get this out a little later, sometimes back and forth, sometimes it depends. Usually in the middle of the month, for folks that didn't know.
Right.
It's when solicitations start coming out.
The reason why I say super soon is because it seems like we're starting to get news about stuff that's going to be coming out in those solicitations. So
and stuff kind of gets cobbled together before that.
Next week.
Right. So, but anyway, next up.
Alrighty, next up, in news that's not a surprise because we've been wondering what was happening here. Ta-Nehisi Coates is set to conclude his Captain America run in June. The writer's tenure on the series will conclude with Captain America number 30. Marvel announced that he's going to end his run with issue number 30, concluding the All Die Young storyline. Wrapping up his other recent Marvel book, Ta-Nehisi Coates recently wrapped up his 5-year run writing Black Panther, relatively. Oh, actually, he's wrapping it up now. It's already done. Right. It's just being published late. But Marvel announced in the announcement. What is this? Is this? It's just the announcement that Marvel made.
Right.
Tom Brevoort. I was looking to see if it was on Twitter or Instagram, but it's actually a lengthy, so it's probably neither. So yeah, Tom Brevoort issued a good statement. And Coates is no longer writing any comics for Marvel, so he's got plenty of free time to work on a recently announced project for the distinguished competition. The screenplay he's writing for the J.J. Abrams produced Superman film. Okay.
Which I think we talked about like last week or something like that. That's rumored, or maybe may or not be rumored, but definitely it's been out there.
Right. And what's funny is that this is news that we were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, because we were kind of wondering like when, because obviously the announcement of like his run and him and his run on Black Panther came well before now. So we were kind of wondering even then, it was like, well, you know, there was nothing announced about him leaving Captain America, but we kind of wondered if that was going to be the case or not, and here we go.
All right. But he's put in, he put in a good, that's,
yeah.
30 issues is nothing to sneeze at.
Totally. For Black Panther, like it's been
no, I'm talking
for Cap. Yeah.
Just on a Cap run alone, 30
actually,
issues
it's been more for Black Panther
at all.
Right, because it was actually more for Black Panther.
Oh, way more, because he had 2 runs.
Right. So, and if you're watching the video, you can see the cover of the 30th issue right there by one Alex Ross. There you go. Next up, Marvel switches up artists on Iron Man number 8. So, Star Wars artist Angel Unzeta is taking over drawing duties on Marvel Comics' Iron Man with number 8. Excuse me, Unzeta is replacing Juan Cabal, who is solicited as a guest artist after the first 7 issues were drawn by Cafu. And every time I hear Cafu, I keep thinking, cool!
Yeah.
Samurai Jack, folks. Anyway, Tony Stark has vanished in the middle of outer space. We kind of sort of talked about it earlier because this is when this is the next issue coming. But anyway, the publisher is not giving a reason for this change, and Cabal has no other announced books for April or May of this year. Cabal recently finished up his run on Guardians of the Galaxy with his final issue going on sale March 24th. Cabal is one of the several creators who have signed on an exclusive contract with Marvel and is one of Marvel's Stormbreaker artists. See, Angel Unzeta has drawn the main Star Wars comic as well as the Poe Dameron series, which I thought, Noto was doing that, so he must have done some stuff on that. I vaguely remember. Anyway, previous to that, he has drawn issues of Captain America Sam Wilson, Teen Titans, and Green Lantern Corps. And of course, Iron Man number 8 is going on sale April 14th. So, and I'm assuming this sounds like he's not taking over, just doing this one issue. So yeah. Next up.
All right, so this is apropos to something I talked about earlier. CBR has an exclusive look at the next cover and solicitation for Captain Marvel number 29 by Kelly Thompson and Jacopo Camani, which reveals Carol Danvers' new pairing, which is teased here, but definitely revealed at the end of issue 28, which I talked about earlier this evening, or earlier in this show.
Yeah. So, and you can see the cover for
Captain 27, because this is actually 2 issues away.
Right. You can see the cover for Captain America. Excuse me, cover. Why did I do that? Captain Marvel number 29 on your screen right now. Which is, yeah, interesting. Next up, though, Marvel announces Hulk spinoff Gamma Flight. On Monday, Marvel announced that Gamma Flight, the subdivision of Alpha Flight featuring an Immortal Hulk, is getting its own series in June. Immortal Hulk writer Al Ewing will team with Crystal Frazier, who's making her Marvel Comics debut in Marvel's Voices Pride number 1, and consulted on an earlier issue of Immortal Hulk to write the series. They're working with artist. For a minute I thought Grant Land. They're working with artist Land Medina to bring Gamma Flight's next adventure to life. The team consists of allies and enemies left damaged by getting too close to the Hulk after being tasked with taking in the Unkillable Avenger. Excuse me. Puck, Absorbing Man, Titania, Doc Sasquatch, Dr. Charlene McGowan, and Rick Jones. So from Marvel's press release, Gamma Flight had one job: find and stop the Hulk. But when push came to smash, they sided with the Green Goliath, and the human world intends to make them regret it. So yeah, there you go. Sounds like this is gonna be something. So next up.
Alrighty. I just wanted to ask: are you interested in this series?
Kinda. A little bit actually. I feel like I said last time we talked about Immortal Hulk, like I would be curious as the goings on of this group.
Once Immortal Hulk wraps.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially then. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know how.
I'm kind of standoffish about it, just because I'm like, these characters, but it'd be interesting to see how they meshed it.
Right.
So that's probably the team dynamic they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and Al Ewing's writing it, so if it, at the very least on that front, it's probably going to be, it's going to lengthen the Immortal Hulk story in some sort of way.
All right.
Next
up, so the Hellfire Gala debuts a new Krakoa team in Marvel's July X-Men solicit. So as I said, Marvel's putting out, they're doing the slow roll of July solicit news.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably going to get the complete solicitations coming up very shortly, probably early next week. So Marvel has been teasing a new X-Men Krakoa team roster for a while now that included a fan voting campaign. The new team is... Did you vote in that campaign?
I did.
I did not. I forgot. I apologize, folks. The new team is scheduled to debut at the much-hyped Hellfire Gala X event. So in the July X-Men solicits, they variously, as Roddykat is scrolling through, they variously tease what's going to happen at the Hellfire Gala, including, and some folks have talked about some of the, I guess, not costumes, but like formal wear or nightgowns or whatnot that have been teased by Russell Dauterman, designed by Russell Dauterman. I don't know if you have a story on that. I did see that in my social media feed.
I don't believe I do, but I do have the.
But you can see,
covers.
right? You can see the Emma Frost cover in this article, and it definitely feels like this is inspired by the Met Gala. And because we didn't have a Met Gala really this past year, it feels like this is a nice little substitute for it. The designs, the fashion design is going to be pretty out there, put it that way.
Yeah. And who knew that this event is actually kind of sort of an event in the comic book sense. Because like we knew about this, before now, but we didn't think they were actually, it was going to be a thing in a book. We didn't think they were making an event out of it. Which all of these books are.
Yeah, I was about to say it seems like a mini crossover within the X books.
Right. Well, another one because we just got out of X of Swords not that long ago. So
right. I don't think this is going to be that long. I think it's like a month. Where all of them tie into the same story.
Totally. But still, I mean, yeah, like I said, just but
yeah,
it's still a little mini event, but that's crossing over in all the books, which I suspect is probably going to be a thing at certain various points in this version. Which I mean, it's not saying that this is the first time that's ever happened in one comic book series, much less X history. So that's not, we're not trying to say anything bad about it, but just like, just kind of close. Especially with the other events we got going on, but it is contained here in a thing. So like I said, still kind of scrolling through the stuff, the covers here, and there's a planet-sized one for folks, which some had noticed. Like, this cover's made better because it doesn't have Emma on it, which I don't know. That was apparently someone who is not so much of a fan of Emma, and also it looks
probably not a fan of the of the design, but all of those designs are Russell Dowderman's designs there on the cover.
Well, no, they specifically said Emma, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
Well, no,
so-
but I'm saying it's but they're probably not a big fan of Emma's design with the whatchamacallit, the thing on her head.
No, like that. I think it was just Emma because they was like, nah, they just specifically called out the cover. Not it had nothing to do with the designs. It had something to do with Emma, but
Okay.
it's irrelevant. But yeah, you can still see this, and there's also X Corp. X Corp, I think, is the new book that yeah, X Corp #2. So that book would have started by that time, which I totally forgot that that's a book that was still coming.
Right.
And also you can see the sword one right there, the Way of X one book, which is the Nightcrawler book, Wolverine, and X Factor, and I believe that's it. So yeah, you can see all the designs there and everything, and it's going to be an interesting time. Next up, Marvel launches an ongoing Predator title. So sci-fi's most iconic hunter has found new hunting grounds, the Marvel Universe. And yes, that's probably going to be a title at some point. Predator hunts and kills the Marvel Universe at some point, I'm sure. Marvel Comics has announced a new ongoing Predator comic book series to debut this June. Former Uncanny X-Men writer Ed Brisson is teaming up with Kev Walker from Doctor Strange on this new series, set just a few years in our future and in the continuity of the entire film series. Which, you know what, as writing goes, I guess Ed Brisson's probably the best one to do in this case, unless they were going to go out and find some whole new talent. Hunt, Kill, Repeat. In a new near future, a young girl sees her family slaughtered by the deadliest and most feared hunter in the universe, a predator. Reads Marvel's description of Predator number 1. Years later, though her ship is barely holding together and food is running short, Theta won't stop stalking the spaceways until the Yachtja monster who killed her family is dead, or is she? And I'm almost fairly certain that the Aliens license is being held elsewhere, so we cannot get any Aliens versus Predator books.
What are you talking about? Marvel has both Aliens and Predator.
Wait, do they now? Okay.
Yeah. The comics license, at least, yeah.
Right. Wait, because I thought. Oh, wait, because I'm thinking that the Aliens license was still over at was it Dark Horse? Or
Don't you remember
Dynamite?
they were doing the covers? I think they're going to be announcing a title as well.
Right. Okay. So I stand corrected then. Okay. Yeah. Because I do remember there was another franchise outside of Predator that they got, but I couldn't remember if it was Aliens or not. So I guess we
Say
will.
Aliens.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
outside of Predator,
there's the
but
possibility of a crossover.
Yeah.
Very. It's almost certain.
almost certain. Yes.
And congrats to Kev Walker for getting this high profile gig. Good
Mhm.
for him.
Indeed. Next up, though.
Next up, Avengers, Spider-Man, Street Fighter, Star Wars, and more free comic book day silver titles have been announced, and DC is still absent. DC stays losing.
Well,
Well,
at the time of this article, because there's an article and a couple of that may or may not.
oh,
bear that
great.
out.
So, so 38 titles have been announced for the silver line. There's a whole slew of them on this article here, but the ones that that we recognize, as well as several from other smaller publishing houses, but there's plenty out there to pique your interest.
Right. In fact, just to kind of go on that note and take these next 3 because they're all pretty much related. Dark Horse has its free comic book day one with Legend of Korra Avatar 1 book, which is going to be on August 14th, and that's going to be by Nadia Shamas, Sarah Alfaghi, and Savannah Ganachau. And the Legend of Korra short story will be brought to life by Kiku Hughes and Sam Beck. There's also going to be there's going to be Boom Studios free comic books day book with R.L. Stine, which is called Just Beyond Monstrosity 2021 Free Comic Book Day Special, which is a free special issue from R.L. Stine, the award-winning bestseller. You know who R.L. Stine is. Goosebumps, Fear Street, yada, yada, yada. Artist Irene Flores, colorist Joanna Lafuente, and letterer Mike Fiorentino. Set in the highly acclaimed middle grade horror series Just Beyond, soon to be able to show on Disney Plus apparently. So there's that. But then there's also, and I don't think there's anything in that offering, but that's fine because we have supposedly the complete Free Comic Book Day 2021 offerings in the show notes, which now that I'm looking into this may or may not actually have any DC stuff in it also. Yep, totally not seeing any DC stuff. But pretty much everything else. So yeah, if you're interested in free comic books day stuff, then yeah, you can check out this list in the show notes. And what Agent 70 said probably still applies anyway. DC stays losing. Next up,
a Mandalorian fan spends over $10,000 to build a life-sized Razor Crest replica. So, a diehard fan of Disney Plus's The Mandalorian spent $10,000 to build that life-size replica of the Razor Crest. The fan is located in, of all places, Siberia in Russia. So, So after fundraising online among other fans of the hit Star Wars series, Ayal Fedorov and a group of friends were able to put roughly $10,200 into building the replica in their hometown of Yakutsk, Siberia. In addition to the money that was donated, Fedorov also sold his car and used his own personal savings to build the 46-foot craft, which weighs over a ton. Roddykat, I'm sure, scrolling through photos. It is clear from the photos that an incredible amount of work went into the construction of the Razor Crest replica, and so far the ship has been a very popular attraction with the Yakutsk locals. The fact that the ship is in Siberia adds to the replica's overall aesthetic as well, thanks to the region's notoriously frigid and isolated geographic makeup. Yeah, that's wild.
And there was that one episode in season 2 that they were indeed trapped in ice, so hey, that would work.
Right. They landed on the ice planet where they encountered Frog Lady.
Yep, indeed.
Yakutsk.
As my friend Camry puts a nice emote in the chat. That's cute. But yeah, that's dedication also. Like you gave up your car for it and all that just for this. So
it's pretty hardcore.
Pretty much. Marvel's Avengers update will finally let you replay the campaign, which I feel like I might have mentioned this last week. But yeah, there's a new update that is actually should be out at this point. Yeah, March 18th. So the players will be able to upgrade to the next generation consoles for free also with this update. And there's been changes made to there's been XP changes made to the gameplay, as well as being able to replay the campaign, which I'm kind of surprised that you weren't able to, now that I think about it. So there you go, folks. For anybody that's still playing Marvel Avengers, if I ever get me a PS5, I plan on actually playing it again, because it was, as much as I hate to say it, because I know somebody will get me on it was halfway unplayable. It was barely playable on the PS4. I enjoyed it, but it was also, like I said, there were things. Next up, though.
Alrighty. So in Marvel Legends news, Marvel fans that are big into Hasbro's Marvel Legends action figure line, are they talking to me? Might be interested to know that a mystery release has popped up for pre-order on Amazon for $59.99 at the time of the writing. The only hint about the release is the title Marvel MVL Legends Infinity 10 AVN 4. This points to an Avengers Endgame related release, and the price indicates that a 2-pack set is a definite possibility, but anything can happen. Fun. I click on these links and it says, sorry, we couldn't find that page.
Yeah. So either they were a little
Quick on the gun, yeah.
yeah.
Quick on the trigger.
With that, or somebody noted it and was like, we need to take it off until we're ready.
Yep.
So who's to say? But stay tuned, because I'm pretty sure when we find out, we'll let y'all know. Hasbro's Kenner Classics releases Real Ghostbusters Ecto 1 and Fearsome Flush. So Hasbro has recently announced a trio of new collectibles inspired by the iconic Ecto 1 Ghost Hunting Mobile and 2 fan favorite ghosts, Bug-Eye and Fearsome Flush. They will be released as a part of Kenner Classic line of Ghostbusters toys. The new Ecto 1 collectible from Hasbro is the latest in the series of Ecto 1 inspired toys released in the lead up to Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is apparently still hitting theaters on June 11th. And also reminds me of a Transformer that I still have yet to track down in relation to Ghostbusters. But regardless, you can see the pictures. You can see pictures of the Ecto 1 and the 2 ghosts if you are watching the video. This thing, see, the $49.99 is the date for the Ecto 1. And it looks like it's possibly a $14.99 for the 2-pack, I guess, if I read that right. So yeah, there you go. Ghostbusters stuff. What do you want? Next up,
Free Comic Book Day is proud to announce the upcoming release of this year's Free Comic Book Day previews exclusive collectible merchandise available during the event on Saturday, August 14th, 2021 at participating local comic shops. Playmates leads the way for Free Comic Book Day 2021 exclusive collectibles with their previews exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ninja Elite Series black and white 4-pack with the suggested retail price of $110. So this is kind of like a in between turtle set. It's kind of like the animated version of Turtles, but in black and white. It's not like their true black and white version that they have done previously, but it's an interesting look. Next up is something that caught my attention, and that is the Mini-Mates, the G.I. Joe A Real American Hero Mini-Mates box set.
right.
This is running for $29.99. And it has Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Storm Shadow, and Cobra Commander. And these little Mini-Mates are actually pretty, these are kind of like the most classic versions of the characters.
Which is sad, considering they have a line of G.I. Joe actual action figures out right now that are questionably quality in some cases.
Right. But these Mini-Mates, these are like the real classic, at least, I mean, I don't necessarily see Cobra Commander with a cape, because we don't see him like that in the cartoon so much, but we definitely see it in the comics. And the Snake Eyes is definitely comic inspired because of the way the blue highlights the black costume. That's definitely comic inspired. But that is pretty cool, and that may actually be something I'll look into getting because that's just really cool looking. And there's more merchandise that's not pictured, but what is pictured here is some Spider-Verse pins that are gonna run for $40. Wow, that's expensive.
I mean, pins are big business nowadays, so I'm not.
It's a 4-piece, it's a 4-piece enamel pin set.
Yeah, so I'm kind of not so surprised by that, but that's still a lot for pins. But there are that market is out there. So cool. Next up, new Green Book showcases Black contributions to today's comic business. In the Jim Crow era of 1940s and 50s, black travelers around the United States relied on the Green Book, researched and published by Black writers to identify welcoming spaces in hostile and segregated society. Now, through veteran, and also if you've seen Lovecraft Country, you've seen that happen. I mean, you've seen example of that. Anyway, now through veterans of the comics business has created a modern day guide to the imaginary landscape of graphic storytelling called The Access Guide to the Black Comic Book Community 2020 through 2021. Designed to introduce new audiences to the world of comics by spotlighting the work of people of color, creators, publishers, events, and retailers. Excuse me, folks. The books start shipping as of this. Actually, this has been out for like a month, so this has been out since February 17th, and I'm just coming across this. But and it will be are pretty much already in comic shops. So ask your local comic shop if you're still going into one. The Access Guide is the brainchild of Dimitrios Fragaskatos, owner of Brooklyn's Anyone comic shop, who sees potential to get more people from diverse backgrounds reading, enjoying, and participating in the fan culture. Fragaskatos recruited Joseph Ilyich, a longtime comics executive and current editor of Heavy Metal, to help produce the project, along with illustrator designer George Carmona. Let's see, excuse me. The guide covers scores of currently published titles from dozens of comic imprints, ranging from the big two, Marvel and DC, to independent and crowdfunded books that might be harder to find on shelves of the average comic book store. It also offers publishers the opportunity to discuss their efforts to engage diverse audiences and include BIPOC voices in the creative and business processes. Highlights some of the minority-owned comics retailers around the United States and promotes the dozen or so conventions, events, and conferences focused on BIPOC content and blurred Black nerd culture. One of which BirdCon, by the way, is coming up in a couple of months. So, and sadly, I will not be in attendance, but I wish I was. Next up,
I was gonna add, Demetrius is a pretty cool guy. I've met him a few times.
Okay.
His comic book store, Anyone Comics in Brooklyn, is not super accessible to me. It's, like it is. I can definitely get to it by mass transportation and obviously driving, but it's not. It's definitely not like a neighborhood comic book store for me. But it is well run. He is, he's a former Midtown Comics guy, and he branched out to a part of Brooklyn that did not have any pre-existing comic book stores, which is cool. So definitely helping out a community that didn't have the easiest access to comic book stores. So, and his Greek last name is pretty hard, but it is Fragaskatos.
Okay, so it was close.
Yeah, no, you got it. It was, it was good because it's not like one of the crazier tongue twisters.
Right.
There's definitely tongue twisters out there.
Yeah, indeed. So that's cool. I might end up checking this book out. I did not. Except the reason why I put this in here because I did not know this previously, and I just happened to come across this article recently. So shout out to Joseph Ilyich.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say Joe Ilyich. I know frequents this shop and the comic book store that would technically be my my neighborhood, my local comic book shop, my neighborhood comic shop, Bulletproof Comics.
Nice.
So I know that he is somewhere in my neck of the woods.
Nice.
Right. Next up, DC Comics has announced an anthology comic that will put its LGBTQIA plus characters in the spotlight. Titled DC Pride, the comic will span 80 pages and is set to launch on June 8th. In addition, 9 Pride-themed variant covers for some of DC's major characters will be appearing throughout June, featuring the work of artists Chris Anka, Jen Bartel, Stephen Byrne, Paulina Gocho, etc., etc. The first issue of DC Pride will bring together characters such as Batwoman, Renee Montoya, Alan Scott, Midnighter, Apollo, Extraño, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and John Constantine. and will also pay homage to DC TV by providing full-page profiles of the LGBTQIA plus characters from the shows and the actors behind them. So, getting back to the representation thing I brought up before, going through this character list, I'm like, oh, okay, so they have some, but they definitely benefited from taking over Wildstorm, because Midnighter and Apollo came from there.
Mm-hmm. And obviously a couple of the newer ones that are there, and that are not there but are in the universe now.
Exactly. So their DC's job with regard to representation in this case is only minimally better than its job with that the Asian Heritage Month, but that Asian Heritage Month was trash. So.
And I guess worth noting, if folks didn't already know, this is the second book for Pride that DC has done. I believe the first one was technically not for Pride, but it kind of came off of the fact that it was that Love is Love anthology that I believe came after the Florida shooting a few years back. I can't remember, and it was a benefit for that, as opposed to just being for Pride Month, as in this one is. But regardless, it is the second one that is around Pride. So let's see, and there's a bunch of covers in this article that you just saw me kind of scrolling to a little too fast for my benefit, but I'm scrolling back over them right now. Because there's also some variant covers that will appear in June from various of the DC Comics line. In addition to this book. And see, when is that book again? When is this? June 8th is when the DC Pride book is going to launch. Is going to come out. So cool. Next up, The Nice House on the Lake. DC announces Black Label horror series by Tynion IV and Bueno. The Nice House on the Lake, a new 12-issue creator-owned horror series written by James Tynion IV and illustrated by Alvaro Martinez Bueno, is coming to the DC Black Label this June. Per The Hollywood Reporter, The Nice House on the Lake is a group of mostly 30-somethings invited to Sylvan Lake House by a friend named Walter. Some have known him since childhood, some since college, some from a party a few months ago. He's a little odd, but after a year that everyone's had, people are already ready for an escape. The comic does not mention that COVID-19 pandemic by name, though the Hollywood Reporter notes that it feels very current with the temperature checks and social media connectivity. However, the group soon discovers that Walter is not who they thought he was, and that the world is falling into terrifying chaos, and that they may never be able to leave. Which again also mirrors the temperature in the outside world. So yeah, as it is, as I've noted, it's a DC Black Label coming out this June, and there's the cover right there for anyone who is looking for that. Next up,
DC senior editor Chris Conroy is taking over management of the publisher's Black Label program. As part of this new position, he also oversees the Milestone and Sandman Universe pop-up imprints with a team that includes assistant editor Marquis Draper, along with associate editors Andrea Shea and Maggie Howell. Chris Conroy is a 16-year veteran of DC, joining them back in 2005 as editorial administration operations coordinator. In their then New York City offices. He was promoted to a proper editorial position in 2008, moving up to the ranks to senior editor. In 2015, he moved to Cali as part of DC's relocation of its offices to Burbank.
So I guess congrats to him then. DC Super Spies Unite in new series by Bendis and Maleev. So the greatest super spies in the DC universe are joining forces in a new Checkmate series by writer Brian Michael Bendis, artist Alex Maleev, and colorist Dave Stewart. Bendis made the Checkmate announcement on his Instagram account, sharing two covers for the espionage-themed series. The first cover by Malieve and Stewart features characters such as Lois Lane, Green Arrow, Question, Manhunter, Steve Trevor, and Mr. Bones standing on a chessboard while an image of Superman hovers in the background. The second is a variant cover by Matt Taylor of the Emerald Archer. Bendis teases that Checkmate has a new leader named Mr. King, with the series also introducing, quote unquote, a new underworld assassin. So there's the first cover there. There's the second one there. And let us move on. This is coming out in June. Next.
Alrighty. In time for Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary, DC Comics announced the new 6-issue anthology series starring the Amazon princess embellished in the color of her famous lasso. That's why it's called Black and Gold. And it's going to feature a variety of covers, that is. Because I'm looking at this this article. I guess it's going to cover several creators. It's going to be 40 pages, and it's going to go for $5.99. The article includes 4 images of the cover of the variant covers.
Mm-hmm. That's good, actually. These covers, as I'm scrolling through them, so that's cool. Next up, speaking of Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary plans announced includes a 100-page special. The Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary. I can't remember actually if we talked about this last week or not. I'm not sure if we did. But 80th anniversary celebrations have been announced to celebrate Wonder Woman's first appearance by DC, Warner Brothers, Global Brands, and Experiences, and One Media. Embracing the call to see the world through Wonder Woman's eyes and to believe in wonder, the 80th anniversary celebration illuminates the superhero's timeless and relevant message of hope and empowerment. Read the official announcement. The campaign will cultivate with a worldwide celebration of Wonder Woman Day on October 21st. So cool. Next up.
Next up.
Well, no, I'll say that for later. Go ahead.
What's up?
No, I'll mention something later.
All right. In 2020, DC finally gives at least some people what they wanted. What is the story? Okay, I'm looking at the article, and it's a little different from our recap here.
Oh, I basically I cut out some of the middle part of that and just went to the meat of it.
Okay, so later this year, DC is going to release Beast Boy Loves Raven. Perhaps a pretty straightforward announcement of their relationship ever published. Piccolo.
Gabriel Piccolo.
Who?
Gabriel Piccolo. He's an artist. He's the one who did that Beast Boy. So Gabriel Piccolo is an artist who basically, if you see the art that's on this article, he was putting out pictures of this art of Beast Boy and Raven as a teen, and I love his art. His art is great, which got him noticed with, and obviously he's one that ships Beast Boy and Raven, and he was posting them as teens, and that ended up, I believe, getting him the graphic novel, which is Teen Titans Beast Boy, which has already came out, but we didn't talk about it that much, which, stars the both of them. So now they're getting another book, and that's what this is talking about. And actually reteaming with, wait, is she reteaming with Cameron Garcia? But yeah, because they talk about that, the first thing with the Beast Boy graphic novel. But it says here that, DC will release Beast Boy Loves Raven, as you just said, and Gabriel Piccolo will be doing the art for that.
Yeah, I was about to say that, this article buries the lead.
Yeah, because it kind of starts off talking about some other stuff. That's why I kind of cut out a lot of stuff. Like, we know a lot of people like Raven and Beast Boy as a couple, and some of that basically this article kind of goes into, like, some of that was teased in Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. Well, Teen Titans go more specifically, but definitely the Teen Titans animated stuff. So
Right. I mean, at least he, at least he has to get over Terra. That's
right.
that's kind of that's kind of kind of one of the founding storylines of Beast Boy as a Titan.
Right, but even
So,
before that, in the animated sense, anyway, that had been teasing it even before and after that whole Terror situation.
but no, but I'm talking about like
Oh, yeah, I
like
know.
just from the comics and going
Right.
forward,
Yeah.
like they have to get that out of the way, because that's one of his kind of like foundational character arcs.
I'm
But
not sure if they're doing
characters
here,
come
but
a long
yes.
way. What's that?
I don't know if they do that
'Cause I
in
was
here, but
still-
yes, I know what you're
still
saying.
Yeah, I was just saying, in terms of the character's development over various points in his past, at least since the Teen Titan days, they have to get past Terra, and since that arc has been like redone to death, in the comics, I guess this seems like at least another progression for the two characters that is like the article says is a little bit of fan service.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, agreed. So yeah, like I said, for those who ship this couple, actually I'm one of them. I think it's fine. It's cool. But it is canon now, I guess. So as opposed to, people's wants. Next up, the next Batman will explain why Tim Fox, aka Jace, changed his name. And this is an interview with CBR with writer John Ridley, and that's about the next Batman Second Son series, which is now, which is going that I talked about earlier, basically, and that's still going. They hadn't still gotten to that point to where they've talked about why he changed his name. But apparently, in this article in this interview with CBR, Ridley was asked about Jace's name change and answered, "We will certainly get a much better sense of why, how, and when he changed his name from someone who was there when it happened. We may or may not get the full, complete story, though. But I will say that it's not haphazard. I'm not just making this up as I go along. Tim is a person who's going through a transformation. He looked at his past and decided he was not the same person. There's a couple of reasons why he chose that name specifically, and what the change means to him. His reasons were very personal." So yeah, and really goes on to say some other stuff about this, but so there you go. I'm glad we're finally actually going to get that. I'm hoping we get a couple more answers to some other stuff, but I'm assuming that's going to bear out. Next up,
in connection with a previous story, the series finale of DuckTales is going to lead into a new ongoing scripted podcast series for kids and families titled This Duckburg Life. It's a 7-part podcast and hosted by Huey Duck for Duckburg Public Radio, and it's going to be available every Monday following the premiere on Monday, March 29th, and highlights riveting stories from Duckburg. The DuckTales voice cast seems to be reprising their roles in the podcast, including David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck, Danny Putty as Huey, Ben Schwartz as Dewey, Bobby Moynihan as Louie, Kate McCucci as Webby Vanderquack, Becca Bennett as Launchpad McQuack, Tox Olagundoye as Mrs. Beakley, Jim Rash as Gyro Gearloose. I did not know that Gearloose was Gyro's last name. And Josh Brenner as Mark Beeks, Margot Martindale as Ma Beagle, and Disney legend Tony Anselmo as Donald Duck.
Nice. Also, I want to say Mrs. Beakley in this show is kind of thick. Anyway, not to say she wasn't already, but yeah. So yeah, that's a thing that's happening. Let's see. And I'm very curious about what the story was behind the revelation from that earlier story. But anyway, the Pokemon Company announces Pikachu-themed face masks. Just in time for Pokemon's 25th anniversary, the Pokemon Company announces the release of some official Pikachu-themed face coverings. So yeah, Pokemon has already started off 2021 incredibly strong, and yes, I can't wait for Pokemon Snap. And there's a bunch of stuff that's been going on this year. including themed Pokemon TCG booster set packs, a virtual Pokemon Day concert that was headlined by Post Malone, a recent viral McDonald's promotion that saw fans scalping Pokemon cards. Yep, because I only got one set of those cards, and I'm not even a full set, and I'm mad about that. Anyway, fans have already received probably the most anticipated announcements late in December, and that's the announcements of a couple of new Pokemon video games, such as Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and Pokemon Legends Arceus. But all that to say is, like, hey, they're adding to their repertoire with Pikachu face masks, as you can see in this post video image. So there's like 3 different kinds. There's the white, gray, and black, and they've got Pikachu on the sides of them. And let's see, you can get them on March 25th. Each set can be purchased from Pokemon Center online for $32, which I feel like I've gotten a set of 4 masks. Now, granted, different type masks from the Disney store for less, but that's beside the point because these are these are differently shaped masks. I don't know why that's a difference, but there you go, folks. Also, Pokemon folks will pay out the nose for stuff. Next up.
1 second, I'm pulling up this story because I need to see when this book is out.
The first issue came out like last week. So technically spoilers.
All right, so this is spoilers for God of War Fallen God number 1, which, as Roddykat mentioned, was published last week. So this is spoilers for anyone who is into this comic book series or this video games adapted into comic book form. God of War Fallen God number 1 hints at another pantheon of gods. So when the newest God of War game was released in 2018, we've fans found Kratos living in the realm of Norse mythology, and he made a new name for himself, a new life for himself. But the game never talks about how Kratos made it all the way there from Greece, but it's been resolved in a new comic, and that is God of War Fallen God number 1. As I said, spoilers. It is teased that Kratos will meet other gods in his travels as he makes his way from Greece to, I guess, the Norse part of the mythology.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of would be a bummer if they were like, nah, we're just not going to go here in video game form. We're just going to leave it to the comic book to go through this part of the thing and screw it. That'd be kind of a bummer because it's, spoiler alert, folks, it's the Egyptian gods that he meets up with. Whether he does anything to them or with them, I haven't read this issue, so I don't know. But yeah, there you go. It's out there. See, the new Green Ranger's identity reveals a dark power coin secret, and this is spoilers for Mighty Morphin number 5, which I believe is already out. Now that I think about it, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers have been living in an increasingly threatening situations in the last few months, each more shocking and delayed than the last. The most recent string of horrors has resulted in the city of Angel Grove being taken from them. Not only have they lost their hometown, but their most valuable ally, the new Green Ranger, has been trapped inside of it with little chance of survival. And as with Mighty Morphin number 5 suggests, the newest Green Ranger may be one of the strongest yet, but he might not have control over his powers. And it is the person that I thought it would have been in the first place, which is, if you've read the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series when it first started, there was somebody who was previously less known, let's say, in the annals of Power Rangers, the show. And actually, I'm not even sure if he even showed up on the actual show. It might have been in the pilot that was never the unreleased pilot. But regardless, the new Power Ranger is someone known to them and not surprising to me, since I do remember reading that book. And then it just goes on from there. So, Next up,
That's
and that's it. Yes, folks, we are at the end of the road, and can't let go.
We apparently let go. I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
So yeah, we are here at the end of the show, but first, before we end this all off, we got another ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Blue Apron. Fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. You on mute, Roddykat?
I forgot to take myself off mute. There we go. So we're at the end of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Thank each and every one of you folks for coming through, whether in audio and video form. We appreciate you lots. We'll be back next week with another episode of this here podcast, as I'm probably going to say again in a minute. But first, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites therein. Also, possibly maybe that Vine replacement bite under Comic Reviews No Vowels. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can the Osiris that is. You can also find him at CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation. That's DKLIQNATION on Twitter. You can also find him at Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And you can also find this here podcast, find us here recording every week, Thursday nights, 9:30-ish p.m. On either youtube.com/TheClickNation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. And that's really thank you to the new followers and the people who have been in the chat tonight. And also, as Agent 70 would say, smash that like button.
Yeah, no, click like and subscribe.
Indeed. But that is that, folks. We'll be back next week with another episode. Like I said, Falcon and Winter Soldier starts next week. So we will definitely be talking about the first episode of that. Also the much talked about, somewhat jokingly so, actually off jokingly so by us, Snyder Cut is all out on HBOMax. Maybe next week we'll also maybe briefly talk about that once we've watched it all. I can safely say that I watched like an hour of it already, and as much as I hate to say it, I am probably going to watch the rest of it. Because it was interesting, the stuff they added to it. Didn't seem like much has been left on the cutting room floor on this one, but who's to say? But it's also stuff that kind of adds a little bit more to what possibly was missing. 4 hours worth, I don't know, but we'll see next week, won't we? But that being said, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!